Visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au, and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manapara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day. There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults. Plus, the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manapara.
Support your local theatre and arts industry and enjoy a show at the Shedley. Playford's iconic Shedley Theatre is bringing a great selection of local and national performances to Elizabeth.
For more information on their upcoming shows, visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au, and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manapara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day. There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults, plus the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manopara.
Support your local theatre and arts industry and enjoy a show at the Shedley. Playford's iconic Shedley Theatre is bringing a great selection of local and national performances to Elizabeth.
For more information on their upcoming shows, visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manapara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day. There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults, plus the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manopara.
Support your local theatre and arts industry and enjoy a show at the Shedley. Playford's iconic Shedley Theatre is bringing a great selection of local and national performances to Elizabeth.
For more information on their upcoming shows, visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manapara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day. There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults, plus the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manopara.
Support your local theatre and arts industry and enjoy a show at the Shedley. Playford's iconic Shedley Theatre is bringing a great selection of local and national performances to Elizabeth.
For more information on their upcoming shows, visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manopara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day. There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults. Plus, the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manopara.
Support your local theatre and arts industry and enjoy a show at the Shedley. Playford's iconic Shedley Theatre is bringing a great selection of local and national performances to Elizabeth.
For more information on their upcoming shows, visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au, and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for His Worship the Mayor?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'll open the meeting at 7:01. And before we call for attendance record, I just remind all elected members and members of the gallery, we have a new communication system that has been rolled out in terms of our microphone and speakers. So all elected members have the opportunity for a bit of training before the meeting, but there may be a few teething problems as it is a new system. So we'll work through that and just guide elected members as and when is required. So it might take a little bit longer than what you're used to in terms of button pressing and connection for tonight's microphones, etc. So we'll move on to attendance record. I believe everybody is here, so there is no apologies and no not present. So we'll move to the confirmation of the ordinary council meeting held on the 17th of December 2024, be confirmed as a true and accurate record of the proceedings. Councillor Onuzans.
Happy to move it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Onuzans. There's a motion, find a seconder.
Happy to second, thank
Seconded
you.
by Councillor Strowett. Are there any questions, comments or amendments to the said minutes, as I'm presuming the mover and seconder aren't wishing to speak to those? If there are none, then I'll put those in favour. Those against, I declare that carried. We move to item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any? No. Move on to item 4, Mayor's report. And we'll come up on the screen. There'll be a number of items. Obviously, this time of year is Australia Day. It was a fantastic event this weekend at Fremont Park, and also our citizenship ceremony here at the Playford Civic Centre. It was great to see thousands of community members turn out for the events. I also attended the Proclamation Day ceremony at Holdfast Bay for the 188th Proclamation Day. Also farewelled and welcomed the new incoming commander for the Air Warfare Centre, and the senior Air Force representative, who will be based at RAF Base Edinburgh, and then attended the Vietnamese New Year celebration at Virginia previous weekend gone. So the other items are on the screen, and that's my report. So we'll move on to item 5, reports of representatives of council on other organisations. Are there any? No, they've been reported on and sent through. We'll go to item 6, reports by councillors. Are there any reports by councillors? Councillor Small-Smith.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just briefly, as you mentioned, Australia Day was fantastic, but I would like to mention that I was approached in the park on Sunday morning by a councillor from Norwood, Payneham and St Peters who wanted to congratulate our council on the event. He said they have nothing like that down there, and he was so impressed and so glad that he was there. So I thought that was worthwhile mentioning to everybody. But it was a great day, and I'd like to comment on the fact that the staff that were there did an absolutely stellar job. It was very, very hot, and the turnout was probably not as good as we would have liked, but being the fact that the shops were open, I think that some people thought the shops might be a little bit more important than coming to the park. But all in all, it was great, and I'd like to comment also on the service clubs that did the barbecue. That was really, really hard work, and Rob Morrison, who was our ambassador for the day, commented on the wonderful job that they did. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smallwood-Smith. Councillor Halls.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'd like to also comment on the Australia Day event. It did seem to go down very well. Everyone was happy with the food. People kept asking to pay, that it was free, which was really great. And of course, everyone liked it when the Mayor came and they were talking to him over the table and he was giving them some plates. So that went really well. The feedback since the day has been very good about our day, even though we didn't get the numbers that we were anticipating. And my suspect is that there were a lot of parents that might have had to work that day because the shops were open. And as you know, a lot of our residents don't just work in Elizabeth, they work all over Adelaide. So we could have lost a few because of that as well. But it was a great event. I was really pleased with the citizenship ceremony. 75 people were inducted into Australia on Sunday afternoon, and it was a great afternoon. Everyone enjoyed themselves, and they were just so pleased to become Australian citizens, and they thanked us very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Halls. Councillor Smiljaney.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. I just wanted to wish everyone welcome back to Council. This is the first meeting of the year, so thank you everyone who has come back to the Council chambers, and welcome to everybody in this chamber. So I hope you had a lovely Christmas, and I hope your new year has been so far so good. I also wanted to echo my fellow councillors with regards to the Playford Australia Day family event. My two children and I we all went and had a great time. So well done to the council staff for putting on a great event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Norris.
Thank you. Look, I will make a quick mention, considering most other councillors have around the room, just in regards to Australia Day. I do think it was a wonderful event. Obviously, the turnout was a little bit lower this year. Again, work commitments, weather, etc. Had a little bit of feedback, which I'll feed back to you guys, just in relation to maybe shade, mist tents, etc., or things we can do just to sort of alleviate temperature issues. The other thing I would like to bring up very quickly is that I actually wanted to express my sympathies and condolences to the family and friends of Phil Fox. So many of you around the room do know Phil, whether that's through council, just meeting him in person. He would often come to us with a lot of council issues, was always a really big advocate for the people of Playford. So he's definitely sorely missed. I probably developed a really good friendship with this person over time from my time on council, just because he purely did come to me for a lot of things to get fixed. I know that Phil was a very active unionist in his time, was a lifetime Labor Party member, Crows fanatic, this is why we got along so well, always put the needs of others before himself and stood up for the rights of the working class, a man that essentially told it how it is, even if it offended you, was very passionate about Elizabeth and the northern suburbs, and even up until his passing was advocating for better access and more access to disability parking, which I know that they are still, like his partner and other people in the party are still pursuing. So, foul Phil Fox.
Thank you, Councillor Norris. I was at that funeral too. I think you did a very good summation of Phil's life. And also to add that he was very active in St John Ambulance, and he looked after me when I was a St John cadet many, many years ago. So he had a very active participation throughout his community, and it's a very sad loss for the Playford and wider surrounding community. Are there any other councillors wishing to make a report? No? Then we move on to item 7, reports of representatives, conferences and training programs. Are there any? No, then we move on to item 8, questions on notice. We have a question on notice from Councillor Carlson, which you can see in the agenda in relation to her question, and that is quite detailed, and that is there. And we also have a question from Councillor Halls from a previous questions that she has raised in the chamber, and that is there and detailed as well. So we move on to item 9, questions. Councillor Halls.
Councillor
Yes.
Smallwood-Smith was before me with a question, and I have a question after she's finished, please.
Okay, we're still on questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about our the answer.
Yep.
We have a question to the answers.
Yes, so you can't, as it's on notice, you can't question on that now. When it gets to questions without notice, you can ask the questions in relation to the questions that you put on notice. That's just there to be put. So now we move on to questions without notice, where you can ask a question in relation to those questions or any other question. So, Councillor Smallwood-Smith.
Mine's not really a question, so I'm not quite sure how you're going to handle this one. It's in regard to the report about the evacuation at the Grenville. Your Worship, I was actually there, and there's some anomalies in this report that need to be brought out. The MFS did not get there quickly. They were very, very slow in coming. They actually rang and said, is there a fire? And they were told no. So they took their time coming, and they certainly did not help people down from the top there. The staff were actually doing that. So that's an anomaly, and I'd like it corrected because I was actually there for the whole time.
I'll take it as a question that you'd like it corrected, so I might hand over to Ms Hudson in terms of the process for correction or any other comments in relation to what we just heard from Councillor.
Through the Chair. Thank you for the feedback. I'll follow up.
Councillor Halls.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question about the evacuation procedure and the answer, I'd just like to ask if once the air conditioning is sorted out, will the grilling oven be still going back into service? Because I see that we've taken it out of service for the time being due to the air conditioning. Thank you.
I'll ask Ms Hudson to provide a response.
Through the Chair. My understanding... Oh, well, sorry. It's much louder than I expected it to be. My understanding is that the decision in relation to the grill was taken in consultation with the staff. However, when the air conditioning is sorted out, if the staff feel that an alternative to what's been implemented is required, I'm happy to look at that. But my understanding is that the decision that has been taken around the way the kitchen operates has been in consultation with the staff, and the staff believe it's appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Move on to any other questions. Councillor Norris.
Yeah, thank you. I have a few questions. They're basically in relation to the same thing, so I don't know if you want me to read them out just all together.
If they're all sort of interrelated, yes, read them out, and then we'll work out answers throughout the time to answer the questions.
Thank you. So my first question is, are staff currently required to provide photographic evidence of CRS job completion? If not, why? Do staff currently utilise iPads and tablets with photo capabilities? That's it.
Okay, I've just been advised Mr Manning should be able to answer those questions. Mr Manning. Hold on, Mr Manning, just need to make sure you hit that microphone there. Yep.
Okay. So currently our process is no, we don't take photos before and after for CRS requests. Our process is our coordinators will scope the work, plan the work accordingly. The teams will then action the work, and then our coordinators will follow up with a quality check. In regards to tablets, we do have tablets that we utilise for pre-op checks and WHS related documents. They do have the ability to take photos.
All right, thank you, Councillor Norris. We'll move on to the next questions. Councillor Kerrison.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. Tonight I've got a couple of questions, and the first one is related to storm water management plan, costs involved to meet the impacts of growth. Now I've had a discussion with administration, and it's quite detailed, so I've been told it will appear on notice next month. However, that we would get a brief summary to summarise that at this point in time.
Thank you, Councillor Kerrison. I'm presuming that the crux of your question, the administration know, so Mr Nanine doesn't need to spend 5 minutes reading the question out. He's got a bit of an idea of what it was, but it is up on the screen for every other member to see. Mr Nanine.
Thank you. Essentially the structure of the road deeds is is such that each intervention has a different cost share model to it. So that could include minister contributions, council contributions and landowner contributions. That's dependent on which intersection it is. So there is some work to do, and we'll return and take that on notice.
Thank you, Mr Deneen. Councillor Kerrison, do you have further questions?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Doherty. The second question is Blacktop Road. We've recently had a speed change, so there's we've asked and requested for some safety data update. So my question is, have we received the safety data update?
I'll ask Mr Colhane if he can provide a response.
Through the Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Kerrison. I can confirm, speaking with the relevant staff member as of last week, further information has been received. As for the timing of distributing that information, I will have to take that question on notice.
Are there any other questions from members? If not, then does somebody wish to move that the questions asked by Councillor Smallwood-Smith, Councillor Halls, Councillor Norris and Councillor Kerrison will be taken and the accompanying responses be recorded in the minutes as per our usual practice. Councillor Halls, I presume you're moving that way?
I will, with a correction, please. Under mine, it says oven. It should read grill plate from the oven.
Okay, I'm sure that in the minute taker in a moment we'll change the word oven to grill plate for you, if that's what you were referring to. But you're happy to move that way?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Does that then find a secondary in Councillor Kerrison? I'm presuming the mover and seconder aren't wishing to speak on that item? No. Does any other councillor wish to speak on the item? If not, then I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against, I declare that carried. Move on to item 10, petitions, which are nil. Move on to item 11, deputations and representations. We have a number of deputations this evening, and our first deputation is in relation to Curtis Road upgrade and other infrastructure needs for the City of Playford by Mr Daryl Booth. Is he Daryl here? Yes, he is. I can see. If you would like to come forward, sir. Thank you for coming along this evening. So just going to give you a little bit of a rundown there. Yep, there we go. The microphone will come on in a second for you. Deputation is for 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, you'll receive a warning to say that you have 1 minute available. At the 5-minute mark, obviously that will be concluding your remarks. Could you please stay at the podium at the end of your presentation, as there may be some questions or clarification from the elected members, and your time for your 5 minutes will start when you start speaking. And there is some water there if you do need it.
Thank you.
Hand over to you.
Thank you. Mayor Doherty, City of Playford councillors and interested parties. My name is Daryl Bothy, a ratepayer and proud resident of Davern Park. I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight on a pressing issue affecting my local community, the urgent need for infrastructure improvements. In particular, I wish to focus on Curtis Road. I grew up in Smithfield Plains, where I spent countless hours as a young boy riding my bike and exploring the area on weekends with friends. I recall fondly how Curtis Road at the time was a narrow single-lane road. Those were simpler times, with roads that were fit for purpose, allowing for young boys freedom to explore. Fast forward to the 1980s and the first Andrews Farm land release. My parents purchased the block there and built their home. As an apprentice at Holden's and living at home in Andrews Farm, I often relied on Curtis Road and Heaslip Road as my main routes to get to the city for social outings. In 2008, Renewal SA launched the Playford Alive Urban Renewal Project, which transformed Davern Park, Smithfield Plains and over 500 hectares of greenfield areas. The project triggered rapid population growth and with it an increased strain on existing infrastructure. This redevelopment included expanding parts of Curtis Road to accommodate the increased traffic from the area's rapid population growth. A 2021-22 National Growth Areas Alliance federal pre-budget submission highlighted the problem. They said the function of Curtis Road has changed over time to the establishment of the Playford Alive project in 2008 and the construction of the Northern Expressway and Northern Connector. The construction of the Northern Expressway has especially impacted the function of the road, changing it from a collector road to an arterial road. The same pre-budget submission stated that the strategic planning identified the need to duplicate Curtis Road as early as 2008 in the Playford Alive Master Plan. The report identified that some sections of Curtis Road will need to be duplicated when traffic volumes reach approximately 24,000 vehicles per day. Further traffic analysis in 2019 revealed that the section of Curtis Road between Peachy Road and Stevenheath Road contains the highest annual average daily traffic, being 24,545 vehicles per day. This also means that the road is operating at a level of service F, way beyond capacity. A two-lane, two-way road is at capacity around 12 to 15,000 vehicles per day, depending on access and speed limit. For context, level of service A is free-flowing traffic with little to no delays. Service level of F is the most severe, defined as the road is being operated beyond its capacity, resulting in excessive delays. In January 2025, Renewal SA announced the Playford Alive East expansion, which includes 71-hectare development to deliver approximately 1,300 additional residential allotments over the next 8 years. This development will put added pressure on Curtis Road through to the Northern Expressway. The critical point here is that the duplication of Curtis Road has been on the radar since the launch of the Playford Alive Urban Renewal Project in 2008, 17 years ago. The project has undoubtedly achieved its objectives in terms of population growth and development, but the infrastructure has not kept pace. We now face a housing crisis, and the immediate solution seems to be building more homes. However, this approach fails to address the infrastructure that is already lagging behind. Recently, the SA government announced a $1.2 billion investment in SA water infrastructure to upgrade portions of the water and sewage network. Yet this investment only addresses existing deficits and does not account for future growth. Similarly, despite numerous discussions between council, state and federal governments, the issue of traffic on Curtis Road remains unresolved. Albert Einstein once said, "The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results." While I'm not suggesting anyone is involved in this process is insane, it is clear that the current approach is just not working. It is time to try something different. My deputation is not about assigning blame or finger-pointing, which only serves to divide us. Instead, I propose a collaborative solution, the creation of a working group involving all three tiers of government, local councillors, state officials and federal representatives, to address the infrastructure challenges in the city of Playford. The immediate focus should be on Curtis Road, including its intersections and off-ramps from the Northern Expressway, followed by a broader discussion of other infrastructure priorities. As someone who hopes to serve as the federal representative for this area after the next election, I pledge to work tirelessly to ensure these issues are addressed comprehensively and collaboratively. The City of Playford deserves infrastructure that supports its vibrant communities rather than infrastructure that hinders their growth and quality of life. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak here tonight. Together, let us ensure a future for the City of Playford that we can all be proud of. Thank you.
You still have 9 seconds if you wish to use them. No, doesn't work. You've still got 5 seconds if you wish to use it. I am required to let you know you've got the full time. That is now the 5 minutes. Thank you there. Are there any questions for Mr. Bothy? Councillor Smil-Jane.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. Thank you so much, Darryl, for bringing a very well-researched presentation to the council. Can I just confirm, how long have you been living here?
On and off since 1973.
Wow.
74.
Well, thank you so much for addressing the chamber today.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Kerrison.
Yeah, thank you very much, and that was very well delivered. So I just want to go back and just highlight and confirm with you, you think it's really important, a collaborative approach, and how would you see that working in your eyes?
Well, it's important for a collaborative approach because, as I suggested, is whatever's been happening over the last 17 years it isn't working because the results just aren't there. So what we need to do is do something different. Somehow a collaborative approach, like a working group where we can actually have councillors along with the state and federal representatives to actually get together and go over what the infrastructure is. From a federal or state point of view, they can actually highlight what may be coming up, or they know what's coming up and budgetary efforts and various different things. So it's important to have those talks as early as possible so that we can actually establish the way forward.
There's Councillor Rentals.
Thank you, Mr Bothy, for coming out tonight, and I appreciate what you just said, in particular in relation to the history, and I think former Mayor Councillor Baker can relate to the deputation, which she's quite aware of the history. A couple of questions. I've got one for you, Mr Green, as well, just for the benefit of the gallery. So one of the points that you made was a really powerful point, and that is you said that infrastructure is lagging, and yet at the same time, we're still continuing to build new homes, despite the fact that the infrastructure isn't there. Have you investigated that? Have you asked anyone why that's the case? Why are we continuing to build new homes every day when the infrastructure at the moment isn't keeping pace?
It's a good question. I haven't thoroughly researched it, but from the initial research I have done is that I believe the state government are the ones that are actually approving these developments outside of what council has already actually approved or disapproved, and so therefore they're the ones that are approving these developments without the funding for the infrastructure to go in as well.
Yeah. And for yourself, Mr Green, again, for the benefit of the gallery, because I get this question all the other time. Why on earth does Playford Council continue to approve developments when Curtis Road is bursting at the seams and we don't have infrastructure there in place right now, let alone to cater to growing infrastructure? Why is that, Mr Green? I've got my answer to the question, but for the benefit of the gallery, I want your response.
Mr Green.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, thanks Councillor Rentoulis for the question. The reason that the Council keeps approving developments are we're required to. So the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act requires us to assess development applications that come in, and if those applications meet the policy framework which is established by the state government, then we are obliged to approve them. So what we're doing is complying with our legislative obligations. And they are somewhat triggered by the state government's zoning processes, where the state government establishes which areas are appropriate for future residential development, and they apply the policy framework that the council then needs to adhere to.
Sure. So just as a follow-up, so the council can't say, no, we won't approve further development. If all the boxes are ticked, so to speak, the regulations, the law is met, we've got no choice in the matter. We have to continue to approve developments. Is that right?
Yes, the council has some grounds to refuse development, but they're usually grounds around design elements, not the actual land use itself.
Yes, okay, thank you. And just for your benefit, I don't know whether you've seen one of the agenda items in tonight's agenda in the meeting, but Councillor Marsh is moving a very good motion which deals with the issue of corroborating different tiers of government coming together to work together. So I don't know if you've seen that, but I'm sure the debate will be interesting. Thank you.
Can I answer that?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I have seen that, but my deputation was actually put in prior to the agenda coming out. I wasn't completely aware that that was going to happen as well.
No, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, then thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
We then move to our next deputation from Ms Brenda Kovalev. Is Brenda here? Welcome, Brenda. The light will just appear now for you. As I've outlined to the other deputy previously, the deputations are for 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, if you're still going, you'll get a warning to say there is 1 minute remaining. At the conclusion of your remarks, please stand at the lectern as there may be some questions from the chamber. Your time will start when you start speaking, and there is some water there if you need some for that. So over to you when you're ready.
Well, thank you to the Mayor and the Chamber for allowing me to put this deputation to you. I attended the December Council meeting here when Councillor David Kerrison tabled a motion to invite the Federal Member for Spence, Matt Burnell MP, Member for Taylor, who is the Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Minister for Housing Infrastructure and the Minister for Planning, Nick Champion MP, and the Member for Light, Tony Piccolo MP. to an information session at the City of Playford with the elected members of council to discuss and workshop the requirements of infrastructure and their priorities. Councillor Arifi moved an amendment to that motion suggesting that only the Mayor and the CEO meet with those two levels of government. I do not wish the Mayor to represent my family in any meetings with other levels of government, and I don't consider the Mayor is able to act in my interest, but I'll address that shortly. I, along with many other ratepayers, wish for all elected members to meet and discuss our needs and requirements in terms of future infrastructure in this growing area. We have seen how that broke down in the Riverlea development, with sewerage having to be carted away from each household, and also with the Grenville hub. We were all told that the hub would not be demolished until our new hub was built. That went a bit awry. So my concern also for the Riverlea is that the fee for this service will eventually become the responsibility of us ratepayers. We have 60-odd affordable homes being constructed on the corner of Craigmore and Bentley Roads. 60-odd new homes with at least one car per household, perhaps more. My neighbour across the road, a family of three, have got 4 cars and they have to park on the road. Very congested. So Craigmore Road is now becoming extremely busy, with 1 school in the Blake's Crossing area of Blakeview, 3 schools across Craigmore Road along Park Lake Boulevard, Blakeview, and a further 2 schools on Adams Road, Craigmore. So school times and peak hour times are extremely busy, and with a further 60-odd homes being constructed, this road will become severely congested and will end up eventually just like Curtis Road. We need our elected members to be working for us. They are the people we voted for to look after our priorities and interests. Now, perhaps a further amendment to David Carrison's motion could be that the councillors who voted in favour of the original motion attend the meeting on behalf of the ratepayers of the City of Playford, and those councillors who did not vote for the amendment, and that includes the Mayor, abstain from that meeting. I have spoken to 3 councillors in my ward and asked for their opinion why all elected members should not be present at this meeting. 2 of those councillors suggested that it would possibly become disruptive and, in the words of one councillor, a free-for-all. I thought we elected members that could actually, discuss a topic and get on with each other. So I, and I'm sure many other residents of Playford, would like an explanation from Councillor Arifi and his supportive councillors as to why it is in the best interest of Playford ratepayers that only the Mayor and the CEO meet with the other 2 levels of government, because I, for one, do not think that is in our best interest. In fact, I think that this was an ideal opportunity for the council to form a separate infrastructure committee of 5 or so elected members to work with all levels of government to plan and coordinate the infrastructure development now and in the future. With all the building proposals that appear to be mooted, surely an efficient body, not just 2 people, to oversee the infrastructure development is a must. It is time for the powers at council to listen to their constituents and understand that the people living at the grassroots within the City of Playford know the issues through lived experience. Being the Mayor does not make you an all-powerful person. It makes you the person that should listen. Having said that, no one has the capacity to remember everything that the electorate needs. Hence, we need to have several elected members. That is it.
You still have 28 seconds if you wish to use it. Okay. Are there any questions?
No.
Councillor Small-Jane.
Hi. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for bringing your opinion, Brenda, to the chamber. It's very appreciated.
All right, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
No further questions? Thank you, Brenda.
That's it?
Yes. We'll now move on to our next deputation from Kathy Jo Tame. Ms. Tame is here. Yep. Ms. Tame, I know you know the process, but to read out for everybody, deputations are up to 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, You'll receive a warning, so there's 1 minute remaining. Your time will start when you start speaking, and at the end of your remarks, if you could stay at the podium, as there may be questions from the elected members, and there is some water there if you'll need it, and your time will start when you start speaking.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for listening this evening to an important topic that needs to be heard. I'm here to represent the people. Back in 2018, I was elected as councillor for Ward 1 within the City of Playford, and within this time, my main goal was to making people understand the world of disability and aged care and the impact regarding access and inclusion, opening the eyes of not only councillors but workers within council and local MPs, such as the previous MP, John G. And when reaching out about the struggles I, as a mother, had within the world of disability, he would support me in any way I needed, including supporting the school with my daughter attended within Parliament to gain support from other local political parties, for shelter, which was much needed within the school. Having our voices heard by not only local but state and federal government makes us feel like we are being heard and things are being looked at from all sides of government. But there needs to be collaboration within these sectors and beyond. A unity which will stop the hierarchy from making rash decisions without looking at future plans. When you think back, who would have thought walking down the street with a child in a wheelchair would be such a norm? Especially years ago, children and adults with disabilities would have been placed in institutions or hospitalised and hidden from the world, which is not the case these days. I'm sure some councillors would agree having your voice heard about the struggles and experiences within the world of disability and coming from us and not third party is much more impactful and meaningful, and people will listen because we live it daily. Nowadays, we need to enforce new legislation and actually listen to the community about how they would like to see their parks, streets and shopping centres where they live constructed for everyone. And I say this as a concerned parent, looking at the development and lack of insider knowledge from residents, how things work on a daily basis within the streets, such as parking, how difficult it is for the bin guy to collect waste in a narrow street, how the streets look with impractical garden beds causing ungodly sights of 5-foot weeds growing, and the issues of footpaths and developers choosing wrong materials for footpaths and parks for people with mobility issues. Curtis Road is a growing concern. We need to collaborate together to make this change. Emergency services and the difficulties they have in getting through to a high-needs school is a major concern and actually life-threatening in some cases, one of them being my daughter. I'm asking you to look closely at what we are requesting, working in collaboration with government, not segregation, not having a divided chamber because you don't want to work together to make a change. The needs of your personal gain shouldn't be something to consider when there are so many people needing a voice, and this is why they voted you guys in. It's to fight for us and raise your concerns, not redirect it and hope for the best that our voices will be heard and our messages will be received. It hasn't so far, so why not make some changes? I'm telling you, when I was on council and the meeting we all had with John G, Nick Champion, and then the newcomer, Matt Burnell, and the majority of councillors at that time, it was insightful and exciting to work alongside other government bodies to feel like we were making that change and the voice we were voted in to raise for the community. Let's hope you can see that we need you to take a stand and not be a sheep and follow the herd. Create a positive for the people, not for your own personal political gain, because after all, you were voted in representing us, not the political party you work for. I'd also like to show a show of hands who here within council work alongside state and federal government as a job or volunteer within their office. I ask this question because shouldn't you want to work together, or is there another hidden agenda to create division within the chamber? Thank you.
We still have 33 seconds if you wish to use it.
I think, you know, with everyone that's come along tonight to express their concerns, you need to listen and actually, be our voices, because without you guys, we can't get things done. And definitely there are so many people out there that need you guys to be a part of us and not a part of a political party. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Small-Janet.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. Kathy Jo, thank you so much for addressing the council. Very much appreciate. I want to thank you for your service on council and also support to our community.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Kerrison.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy Jo. I think that was very well put together, and thank you. And I'm sure it goes to everyone who's around this chamber would say thank you tonight. And also I'd like to say thank you to Brenda. That was an excellent speech. And I may not say thank you again to everyone else, but to everyone else who's come forward, I really appreciate the support. Thank you.
If there's no questions, then thank you for your deputation. We move on to our next deputy, Bronwyn Coulter. One here, yep. The light should now appear. So Bronwyn, you have 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, you'll be warned to say you have 1 minute remaining. At the conclusion of your remarks, please stay at the lectern, as there may be questions from the elected members. Your time will start when you start speaking, and there is some water there if you need it. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you to Mayor Doherty, the CEO, Sam Green, and councillors for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I'd like to begin tonight, thank you. I'd like to begin tonight by revisiting our Playford City Council history, just for a brief moment. The City of Playford was named in recognition of Sir Thomas Playford, who played a part in the development of the area and was South Australia's Premier from 1938 to 1965. There has been no other Australian leader, state or federal, who has served longer than Sir Thomas Playford's 26 years. It was a time of enormous change. He was always prepared to move beyond what would be regarded as either classic Liberal or Labor ideology of how he thought South Australia would benefit. He championed massive growth within the state and had a vision, using initiative and calculated risks. Fast forward to today, Playford Council is the fastest growing council municipality in the state of South Australia, having 10 people every day moving into the area, and that number will be the same every day for the next 20 years. Past observations of Playford area have been tarnished with many negative connotations by those living in more affluent areas within the Adelaide suburbs. Suburbs within the Playford Council have been frowned upon through media and treated like second-class societies. It has primarily been a safe Labor seat. However, this has often been to our detriment. Just look at the state of some of our roads. Many have not been touched or had any funding allocated for 35 plus years. And I give you some examples. Main North Road from Smithfield to Gawler, Wammer, Curtis and Anglevale roads are just a few. It is only those of us living within Playford neighbourhoods who acknowledge and recognise the deep sense of community that exists here. We are bonded through likewise values, experiences and adversities. Currently, we have a once in a generation, a unique opportunity to challenge media, other councils, government and public perceptions as a low socio-economic area to an expanse we can all be proud of, to show initiative and be proactive and progressive in embracing and funding this growth and acting collaboratively for the betterment of the community. As the initiator of the critical road upgrades petition, it has not been uncommon for people to say things like, "Why bother? Nothing is going to change," when asking for their support to the petition. Or, "No, there's no point." Social media contains negative comments over council decisions and is often mocked by resident perceptions of council decisions. It is widely documented, unfortunately, when individuals of communities are continually ignored or downtrodden, people become resigned to accept their situation. I know this through personal experience. It can be easier to accept your circumstances rather than challenging and rising above them to a better and more positive experience. A vital requirement of my petition highlights the importance of all levels of government bodies to work collaboratively. And I quote, both in bold and italics, which is on the petition, both local and state governments must work and prioritise together critical road upgrades to ensure our community's safety. Really though, we're all aware that the bigger picture here is not just the critical road upgrades, but the essential infrastructure to support this growth, to future-proof the needs of our growing community. How can that possibly happen effectively if the council is divided on how they are going to represent their community? Excuse me. I am at a loss as to why councillors cannot all be on the same page. There is so much potential.
1 minute.
There is so much potential to make Playford suburbs streets, landscapes, sports precincts, playgrounds and other essential infrastructure to support communities and to become enviable and vibrant areas with which to live, to have footpaths that are a pleasure to walk for young parents with prams, school children and mature residents with gophers, dedicated bike lanes, trails, more public toilets, water fountains, running tracks. I could go on and on here. Can you not see this vision? Please, can those of you who are against this move reconsider your position in representing the community, your community, the community who voted you to represent them. This will potentially not only benefit the growth and new housing estates being developed, but provide opportunities to revitalise original tiresome suburbs within the Playford Council precinct. Thank you.
Right on time. Are there any questions? Councillor Carlson.
Hi, Bronwyn. I don't think we've met. Thanks for your deputation. I just wanted to ask, are you, I think I've seen you on there, but are you the admin of the Playford Growth Infrastructure Facebook page?
There are a number of admin.
Okay. So just in the spirit of transparency, are you able to tell us who those admins are?
Well, there's a few of us. There's myself, there's... I have, when I'm standing up in front of people, I get a mental blank, I'm sorry. Kim, yeah.
Oh, hi, how you doing? Good.
So, yeah, there's a few...
are there any elected members as admins?
Councillor Clint Marsh.
Okay. The only one? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But we all take turns.
Okay.
I had quite an ill husband last year.
Oh, sure.
Undergoing chemotherapy. I couldn't keep on top of it myself, so I asked for some help.
No, fair enough. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Kerrison.
Thank you, Bronwyn. You mentioned the petition. Very interested. How's that travelling at this point?
We've got 5,000 signatures so far, or over 5,000 signatures, and we're aiming for a minimum of 10,000 signatures. So when that happens, I believe it'll be lodged here with council, and then it will be going to the state government.
Thank you.
Questions, Councillor? Give me a minute just to pull up the screen. Rentals.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms Coulter, for your passionate speech tonight. I really noted a couple of things that you said. One of those things was when people feel that they can't change their situation, that they become resigned to their predicament and they accept it. And you're, courageously trying to change the situation out here with respect to, if we're going to be fair, I think we can honestly say that we haven't been properly catered to. It is a safe Labor seat. And you pointed out a number of roads that have been neglected. You said Anglevale Road, you said May North Road, a section of it, Walmer Road. There's a number of roads, it goes on and on. All I can say is thank you for what you're doing. I know that social media can be a brutal place. Just putting yourself out there in the public spotlight can be brutal, and you're actually doing something about it. So thank you, and thank you to all those people that are actually helping you to get the 10,000 signatures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Is there any other question? Oh, sorry, yep, Councillor Norris.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So one of the things that really struck me was when you talked about essentially needing a proactive and progressive council, or people essentially proactive and progressive in the community to look after the community needs. Do you sort of have a vision of what that looks like? I know that's a bit hard to answer because it's probably got multiple steps, but I guess in your eyes, you know, what is that first step that needs to be taken?
So that would be all people within council, state and federal, all working together. And they're all working together on the one agenda for the betterment of the community. If I can give one example, prior to living within Playford, I was a member of the city, I was living in Salisbury, and I was on a urban renewal project for the redevelopment of the Housing Trust area within Salisbury North. That was made up of representatives all over, so there were Housing Trust, council, local businesses, local government, state government, the local developers, long-term residents and long-term businesses. That period was also when we had the bodies in the barrel cases or flare-up in the media. So they would meet once a month to address all the issues, the issues within the council area were all raised, and how do we address those? So it was a robust discussion. Everybody worked together because they all wanted the same outcome. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, then thank you for your deputation.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next deputy, Mr. Timothy Main. Mr. Main, I know you've heard the other 4 or 5 already, but light should appear, which it has. Deputations for 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, you'll get a warning to say there's a minute to go. Your time will start when you start speaking. At the conclusion of your remarks, if you're able to stay at the lectern, as there may be questions from the elected members. And there is some water, but I see you've brought, I'm alleging it's water, but I'm not sure what's in that, that flask. But feel free to have that if you wish. So your time will start when you wish to start.
Okay. Good evening, all. Yes, I'll just lift up this microphone a little bit. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I am Timothy Main. I'm a local resident of Playford since I moved to South Australia with the Defence Force in 2008. Since leaving the Defence Force, the RAF, I moved into defence industry, and I've been in that career ever since, so working at RAF Base Edinburgh most of the time. I'm here tonight to present my view in regards to having a collaborative working group involving all council chamber members, along with state and federal MPs. Without each level of government being on the same page, potential funding opportunities could be missed. Our funding is made available for growth infrastructure. It might be here to use, but it's to an inadequate level, or with poor plan timing and arrangements. So how's it going to work? This would either see projects delayed due to waiting upon other pieces of growth infrastructure to be funded or built, or poorly delivered infrastructure outcomes that don't meet the original intended requirements. This may lead to infrastructure works being done twice over at the cost of taxpayers and local ratepayers. You know, you could lead into a footpath that cannot be built due to stormwater drainage and guttering which needs to be laid, only for that project of guttering and drainage to be delayed because there needs to be an intersection upgrade, a roundabout needs to be put in, or we need to put some traffic lights in first, or we need to do main sewage, which would require more funding. So you might have 3 levels of project, all relying on one part to be finished first before you get to the next step. If we don't have collaboration between the smallest level of government to the highest level, nothing can get achieved, or you end up doing everything twice over. On a joint committee, for instance, the first task could be doing a formal handover of Curtis Road. If we don't have a work group where all hands are involved, there's less chance of this happening. Now, when I think about Curtis Road, it's not really a local road anymore. It has very few directly connected private properties to the road itself. The main purpose of that road is not exactly for living anymore, but it is an interconnector or feeder arterial road between the suburbs, Main North Road and the Northern Connector. And it is to become a critical link as the area builds and becomes bigger each year. Playford Council on its own could not possibly self-fund the required infrastructure projects to keep up with our population growth of 10 a week. From the previous motion, the amendment raised against it, which would eventually be voted down, pushed for CEO and Mayor representation for committee meetings and not the whole council chamber. There would be more ability to cover questions, get more direct questions from ward level and share information and get feedback back to local residents faster if the whole chamber can be involved. Communication between councillor, CEO and Mayor could get lost in translation by accident. Or, you know, on the day the ward councillor forgets a question to go to the CEO or the Mayor and we don't get what we want. From a local resident point of view, Playford Council would benefit from more councillor engagement. The more information councillors can provide from being at high-level meetings, including state and federal members firsthand, the better informed a local resident can become. I've been looking around on the internet and social media, and I have noticed that local council already receives a huge amount of negative feedback when it comes to infrastructure, and I think it's completely unfair. I know everyone sitting on the table, I know the Mayor, do everything they can to get the best outcome for ratepayers and residents. Playford should look to vote and pass the motion for a common work group with all council chamber invited along with state and federal members. Even if a councillor cannot make it to a meeting or an MP cannot attend, the ability is still on the table for a work group meeting to take place. Thank you very much.
Mr Mayne, you still have 31 seconds if you wish to use them.
Oh yes, just like to say, proud member of the, like a resident ratepayer of the area, and thank you again for letting me talk tonight.
Are there any questions for Mr Mayne? Councillor Rentallis.
Thank you, Mr Mayne. Very animated, very passionate speech. I like it. How long have you been a resident ratepayer?
Since 2008. And I've lived in Andrews Farm,
Yep.
Elizabeth Grove,
Yep.
Manapara West, and now Anglevale.
So all over Playford. So, you know, I think it's fair to say you know what you're talking about. You've seen quite a lot.
Yes,
So
I have.
You said that, and I agree with you, Curtis Road is no longer a small road fit for purpose as it used to be when it was first established a long, long time ago. It is now absolutely a feeder connector, connecting Heaslip Road all the way to Main North Road. So I agree when you said in your speech tonight that there probably should be some sort of formal handover. And I believe that our administration has been working on that, but it hasn't happened yet. I will ask this question of our CEO, and he probably doesn't have the answers because we haven't really received too much information regarding Curtis Road in terms of any concept designs, any formal traffic studies. We've received nothing yet, nothing. But in the past, it's been floated out there that a construction dual lane section of Curtis Road in terms of the relevant parts, doing everything that needs to be done is going to cost somewhere from $250 million upwards, and that was floated a couple of years ago. I don't know what it is today, but it's expensive, and you're right, City of Playford by itself cannot fund that. It absolutely does have a place in funding it, but it can't fund it by itself. Mr Green, can I ask you, do you have any idea as to what the upgrade, fit-for-purpose upgrade, dual lane of Curtis Road will ultimately cost, or is there any information that you need or we need to be able to establish that?
Mr Green.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thanks Councillor Rentallis for the question. In short, no, I don't know how much it will cost, and I wouldn't want to guess. It'll be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. What's required to determine that is Firstly, a concept design followed by a more detailed design, which would then be presented to the market, which is where we'd get accurate costings. Until that's occurred, we'd only be guessing. And perhaps just to remind everybody that we're not just talking about a dual lane road, we're talking about probably some kind of rail crossing or underpass at the top end, which is where a lot of the cost is probably going to reside.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Green. Again, I asked the question, it's a bit speculative, but I want to get your perspective on this. At a future point, through my discussions with you, I know that you're broadly in support of council contributing to some sort of upgrade of Curtis Road, and it should, because it's our road. Do you have anything in mind that you would think is appropriate in terms of a funding model between state, local and federal? Is there anything that you've thought about?
Mr. Green.
Through the Mayor, look, Councillor Entoulis, there's lots of variables, I think, that come into play when we start talking about what an appropriate contribution would be. I do have the view that it's probably appropriate that local, state and federal government make a contribution to a road upgrade like Curtis Road. But I think until we have a fully costed design and we've had a conversation around how that might be funded over time, I think it'd be inappropriate to sort of advise the council about what the council contribution might be.
No, thank you so much.
Sorry, sir. Excuse me, sir. You can't interrupt the meeting. You can't ask questions from the gallery. Are there any other questions for Mr. Main? Councillor Smiljanic.
Thank you very much, Mayor Doherty. Thank you, Timothy, for coming and addressing the chamber. I appreciate it. You mentioned that you're a RAFI and you moved here in 2008.
Correct.
Fantastic. I also am an Air Force member and I'm still currently serving. I was just wondering, what was your role in the Air Force?
Yes, while I was in the Air Force, I served the 11th Squadron, Avionics.
Fantastic. I too was an avionics technician. Fantastic. And I guess I just want to ask you, if you had an issue within your workplace, how would you address that?
Well, I think addressing issues in the workplace is how we do it now. We take it to paper, we bring it to meetings, and we try and get everyone on board and look for a common outcome.
Absolutely, and that's, I feel, very similar. We bring it up, we have a conversation. I love this. We then have a debate, we have a conversation, and then in normal circumstances, we then take it up through leadership, right? Would you say that's the case?
In terms of defence, you can take it through chain of command, yes. Outside of defence, you might be given the responsibility as well at a lower level first and then have oversight with a higher level.
That is absolutely correct. So I get what you're saying with regards to that chain of command, and I thank you very much. And I look forward to maybe talking to you offline about how your avionics tours were at 11th Squadron.
Oh, no worries. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Main. I don't believe there's any more questions, please. Thank you very much for your
Thank you very
dedication.
much.
We'll now go to our next deputation, Ms. Janet Edwards. Is she here? Yes. All right, Ms. Edwards, the light should appear, which has come on.
What, the red one?
Yeah, the red one there. I know that you've probably heard that.
Anyway,
what's that? Sorry?
Doesn't matter. I'm fine, sorry.
Yep. So I am required to just give the little spiel like for every member. So if deputation is for 5 minutes, at the 4-minute mark, if you're still going, you'll get a warning to say you've got 1 minute remaining. Your time will start at the time you start speaking. At the end of your remarks, if you could stay at the podium, as there may be some questions from the chamber and there is some water there for you if you need it. And your time will start when you're ready.
Hi. I'm calling my deputation. We all need to be on the same page. My name is Janet Edwards and I reside at Penfield Gardens and have done so for 4 years. We chose our residence not just because of the home's appeal, but also because of its location. It's in a rural setting, but its close proximity to the Northern Expressway was a major factor. We saw this as an incredible asset and we still do. However, we are extremely fortunate. We have 5 options from our home to access this north-south corridor, unlike many Playford residents. Most Playfordites do not have this luxury. Many have only 1 or 2 options. We're also very fortunate to be retired and have time and flexibility on our side. Many Playfordites do not. Most work or attend schools, raise families, and are often time poor. The absolute nightmare that so many Playford residents have to endure just to get on and off the Northern Expressway was a common complaint voiced whilst out in the community collecting signatures. All of them believe that the increase in housing developments and associated population growth have exacerbated their frustrations and increased their travel and times and inconvenience, including accessing the freeway. Whilst collecting signatures and interacting with a variety of residents, it became painfully obvious that all the signatories all had similar stories and all had same concerns. Basically, they are all on the same page, but is our council? Residents are perplexed, many are angry, and certainly all are impacted negatively every time a new housing or commercial development is created. New developments should be welcomed, but they are often not. It's a common theme. New development, result, more inconvenience, little or no improvements to the surrounding environs. Everyone can be inconvenienced for months on end during the construction, with the result being more houses with more people, more cars, more traffic. But it appears very little consideration or advancement for existing residents. People have had to accommodate so much change and inconvenience, but are then not rewarded with necessary improvements that facilitate a smoother transition across the new area or the whole council region. Once a delay or detour has ceased, it's back to the same old roads, same traffic provisions and restrictions. Little has changed to facilitate the bigger footprint resulting from the population's growth. Clearly a noticeable change, though, is the fluency of navigating the same but clearly busier roads. It's worse. It's affecting everything they do. Regarding this, it seems that once again everyone is on the same page. But are all our Playford councillors? The vote taken at the last meeting suggests no. Everyone will tell you that travel times from any 2 points across the Playford region has increased dramatically, particularly the east-west travel. It's almost CBD-like at times. Nearly every single person initiated a grievance and chatted with us about a particular road or area, offered up examples of how they're changing not only their road routes and driving practices, but their working hours, their shifts, their planning of activities, their spending habits, their visitations. Some are no longer supporting local businesses because it's just too hard. There were so many examples to mention about how they miss their once less hectic and joyful lifestyle to which they've been accustomed. My favourite anecdote comes from a friend who recently moved into Andrew's farm. She said, "The first night I came home from work, I thought there was a giant party in my street, as both sides of my road were lined with cars. There was no party. This is my everyday. I doubt anyone could have a party in my street." Poor planning is repeating itself over and over. Why isn't anyone listening, such as our council, and enacting changes? Surely we must all be on the same page. Finally, and I believe the most concerning aspect of increased vehicle numbers and road congestion is safety. The feedback was overwhelmingly negative. So many motorists avoiding well-known problematic roads, intersections and roundabouts because it is often dangerous to frequent them, particularly at busy times. At the start, I referred to my love of the Northern Expressway.
1 minute.
But in the short amount of time, my love has waned. Not the road itself, but access to it. Not only have I changed where I enter and exit because of congestion, but the incredible banking of not only passenger vehicles, but huge trucks and commercial vehicles in a 110-kilometre zone is frightening. I'm not the only person who fears being involved in a collision whilst literally parking on a freeway. Some have expressed that their fears include that a severe horror pile-up could result with many fatalities. Back to my Andrew's farm friend, yes, she does exist. Every single working day when returning home, she bypasses the Heaslip Road exit and continues on to Curtis Road. This despite her home being way closer to Womma than Curtis. More time in kilometres, but safer. She's frightened about the banking of cars as she drives a small sedan and any collision could be disastrous. This sentiment is echoed by as many, as it is not the only area where cars are banking and parking whilst trying to traverse the expressway across the number of roundabouts.
That's the 5 minutes,
Oh well,
Mrs Edwards.
I've got more, but it doesn't matter.
Thank you for your time. Are there any questions for Mrs Edwards? Councillor Norris.
Thank you. You touched on a really good point that I don't think I'd actually previously considered, where you talked about people changing their work hours to obviously avoid the traffic, people changing their spending habits because it's too hard to go up Curtis Road. I'll go to Gawler. It's quicker to get to Gawler than to go up Curtis Road.
I could give you a list of things I've changed since I've moved.
Even changing their driving routes, just for that safety aspect, or just to be able to get somewhere quicker. So I guess for me it was just sort of, I guess it brought home the impact that this road is actually having even on people, getting an income, because a lot of people do work locally. And I think you've really honed in on that as well, the safety aspect, the income, the lack of spending in the area, and the ability to get to a completely different council area quicker than you can get up Curtis and Craigmore Road. So
that was not made up, as in that's what constantly was suggested. Everyone had a story about what they're not doing anymore, where they're going, what's changed, what they're avoiding, and when they make appointments, changing where they go. It's incredible.
Well, thank you for opening my eyes to that. I appreciate it.
There's no further questions for Ms Edwards. Thank you very much for your deputation. We'll move on to the next deputation, Mr Kim Hanton. Kim here. Mr Hanton, the light should appear on. I know you've heard this from the other 6 or 7 beforehand, but you've got 5 minutes.
It's been a long night.
Yeah, 5 minutes for your deputation. At the 4-minute mark, if you're still going, I'll remind you with a 1-minute warning to go. There is the opportunity for questions afterwards, so please stay at the podium at the conclusion of your remarks. Your time will start when you start speaking, and there is some water by the side there if you wish to use it. And over to you when you're ready.
Too easy. Ladies and gentlemen of the Council, I am Kim Hanton, for those that don't know me. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I stand before you not just as a community member, but as someone who deeply believes in the power of collaboration and unity across all levels of government, local, state and federal. As we all know, each level of government has its own distinct responsibilities, but our shared goal should always be to serve the people that we represent. Whether it's addressing local infrastructure, improving public health services or creating employment opportunities, we must work together to ensure that our communities thrive. I believe that local issues don't just stop at the council level. They extend to the state government and ultimately to the federal government. For example, decisions made at the council level about public transport, housing, community spaces can be impacted by both state policy and federal funding. It is imperative that we build strong open communication channels between all tiers of government to ensure that solutions are effective, efficient and responsive to the needs of the people that we serve. This is one of my platforms and goals when I run for the seat of Spence in the up and coming federal election. If elected, I will be aiming to work with councils in the region and the state government. But I want to emphasise that this decision isn't just about advocating for change at the national level. It's about ensuring that our communities are heard and represented at every level of government. As someone looking to represent the people of this region federally, having trouble talking now, I believe it's crucial to establish strong relationships with state and local government officials. This is a fundamental part of my platform to create a unified approach to tackling the issues that matter most to our residents. By building these connections, we can ensure that there's no gap between local needs and the resources or policies available at the state and federal levels. Through collaboration, we can tackle issues more holistically, whether it's securing more funding for local projects or improving regional infrastructure, or ensuring that the policies benefit everyone in our communities. Working together is key. So I ask for your support as we continue to grow these relationships and build a future where all levels of government act as partners in serving the people. It's time that we work together, not as separate entities, but as a cohesive force for a change. I ask those councillors opposed to inviting the state and federal members, and it is an invitation, to speak and work with the Playford Council, reconsider their positions. What harm would it be to put the invitation out there for those members to either take up the offer or decline? It doesn't matter what political positions are when elected. It is your role as elected members to represent and achieve the best possible outcomes for the community as a whole. I also want to remind councillors that the elections for council are not compulsory. So remember that those voting often take an interest in what is occurring. If you're looking to be re-elected, then it's your constituents that control this, and opposing this invitation makes no sense. And voters will be watching. Which brings me to another motion, funnily enough, the next one coming up, being put forward regarding Playford Council putting up $15 million to match the state government. I would ask, is this in the best interest of Playford to commit to without further information and collaboration, which a unified information session may deliver? And believe that this motion that's coming up may be premature and should be postponed until further information is provided, as we need to preserve the green belt.
1 minute.
And consider the long-term ramifications to our communities as we cut deeper into our food bowl. I have a couple of questions for councillors to consider regarding the $15 million motion being put forward. What is the $15 million for? Is this on top of the current pledge of $30 million by state and federal regarding Angle Vale, or is this an additional $15 million from state pending Playford also put in $15 million, which would bring the total of taxpayer funds to $60? Just in relation to Curtis Road, which doesn't fix current issues, just allows for more residents to clog up the road. Well, thank you for your time, and I look forward to working alongside all of you, both as a member of our local community and I hope in the future as your representative on the federal level. Thanks for your time.
Mr Hanton, you still have 9 seconds if you wish to use that.
No, that's all good, mate. Thanks.
No worries. Are there any questions to Mr Hanton? Councillor Smiljanec.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. I just wanted to thank you very much, Kim, for coming on in and addressing the council. Appreciate your words.
Councillor on your hands.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank all the 12 presenters for sharing your valuable insights, your experiences and your challenges related to the pressing issues and needs of our city. And what is highlighted once again is that it is essential that we pursue and ensure that our infrastructure aligns with and responds to the needs of our city. One of the components highlighted to the necessity of is the necessity of working together, and that is seeking collaboration between local government, state and federal. So I thank you for your time to come up here tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, thank you, Mr Hampton, and all the other deputies who came tonight. It's also really important for the elected members to listen to the residents of our community. We don't very often get the chance to have so many residents in our chamber to actually listen to the debate and hopefully to listen to the debate that will follow in the next couple of resolutions. So on behalf of myself, thank you very much for you all coming, spending the time and also giving us, I can't say an outsider's viewpoint, but an alternative viewpoint to what actually goes on all the time in the chamber. Thank you.
Are there any questions, Mr Hinton? If not, then thank you very much for your deputation. That's all of our deputations, ladies and gentlemen. So we move on to item 12, motions on notice. We have an item on 12.1, motion on notice, Curtis Road upgrade on page 10. Councillor van der Peer.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. I move that Council A welcomes the recent announcement by the state government to allocate $15 million towards the upgrading of the council-owned Curtis Road. B, notes the comments made by the Minister for Housing and Urban Development calling on the City of Playford to match the funding. C, upon receiving the details of the Curtis Road upgrade, immediately investigates and reports back to elected members the options to match the funding, along with a revised long-term financial plan. And D, authorises the Mayor and the CEO to discuss an agreement with the state government to commit the Council's matched funding over multiple financial years to reduce the financial burden on ratepayers and remain financially sustainable.
You wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. So earlier this month, the state government made an announcement to commit $15 million of new funding towards an upgrade of Curtis Road, with the expectation that the City of Playford match it. Now, we obviously know that this announcement is not the silver bullet for Curtis Road, rather it's a start. It's a start that residents have been calling out for, and it's a start that elected members say they want to see. Now, the immediate need to fix some or all of Curtis Road goes without saying. And I'm not going to waste anyone's time tonight by talking about that. And in fact, I think the residents tonight have done an excellent job in explaining that for me. So thank you. What I will do is talk about how I think this council needs to respond to the situation that it's found itself in. Now, I'd like to acknowledge that the staff in this council have been working very hard over the years to try and get an agreement from the state government that would see them take over Curtis Road and fund its duplication. But if I'm completely honest with you, I think these efforts have been undermined, and we've been left in a very difficult situation. Whether you're buying a car or establishing a trade deal, the rules for negotiation are pretty simple. You approach the negotiations respectfully, you foster trust, you show goodwill, and you don't use force or propaganda. Unfortunately, I don't think this has been an approach taken by everyone sitting around this chamber. And I've certainly been seeing from both sides a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blame games, and not much action. And I think it contributed to the Minister's recent announcement about the council, but without the council. So we're sort of left with no choice here. So, and of course, I would love to see the state government take over Curtis Road, and I totally agree with the argument that it's become an arterial road. And that was certainly a direction I understood we were going in. And without going into details of confidential meetings that we've all had as a chamber, we were warned about this. So, to those who have presented tonight for genuine reasons, I do want to thank you for coming here and sharing the need to upgrade Curtis Road. Instead of just trying to organise high-level meetings, I'm standing here tonight with a proposal to make a real material commitment to upgrade Curtis Road, a commitment that demonstrates this council's willingness to partner with the state government. Now, I've made sure that this motion only commits us to funding Curtis Road once there's an agreed scope of works. And I think that's something the Mayor and the CEO are going to have to work out with the Department for Infrastructure and Transport. And it also needs to be acknowledged that there will be a financial impact felt by this council if we were to allocate this funding. And that's why in dot point D, I've added a part that authorises the CEO and the Mayor to discuss an agreement with the state government that would see our funding be taken from multiple financial years, so we reduce that burden on the ratepayers. So, to close, I think we are faced with a defining moment here. We can either put our money where our mouth is, or we can continue to point fingers, shift the blame, cause division, provoke anger, but never actually take any action. So if you actually want partnership, and if you actually want action, let's show them that we commit to being part of the solution for which the council created in the first place.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the motion find a seconder? Councillor Halls.
Thank you.
Do you need to speak now, Councillor Halls?
Yeah. I think that my colleague, Councillor Vandermeer, has said it very well, and I think that the speakers, the delegation, deputations have put forward a good case as well for this. Thank you.
Councillor Kerrison.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. If I'm able to, I'd like to move an amendment to that, please.
Yes, what's the amendment?
That Council acknowledges the state government's announcement of the $15 million towards Curtis Road. B, the expectation from the state government that the City of Playford matches the $15 million funding as announced by the Honourable Nick Champion, Minister for Housing, so we're acknowledging the expectation from the state government. 2, we recognise the City of Playford's commitment to working collaboratively with the state government to make informed decisions addressing communities' infrastructure needs, including the upgrade of Curtis Road. 3, agrees to seriously consider the match funding proposal for Curtis Road and assess whether this financial commitment aligns with the best interest of the ratepayer, contingent upon receiving the findings of the state government's traffic survey and concept designs. 4, commits to holding an information session with the elected body to workshop the proposal, including funding models after receiving the findings of the traffic survey and the concept designs from the state government. 5, seeks to develop with the state government a preferred whole-of-road design for the purpose of the whole road funding strategy, recognising the reliance that the council has on the state traffic study and SA water infrastructure rollout. 6, considers that request to funding without the opportunity to develop a whole-of-road design is not effective decision-making.
Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I do. Look, tonight, thank you very much to Councillor Rebecca Vanderpeer for bringing this forward, and I think this motion in large agrees with what's been put forward tonight. Thank you also to the many deputies, because I've put this amendment forward tonight, and it's really great to hear the community voice, and I think in large what I've heard tonight, this amendment really aligns with what we're talking about. The biggest thing for me is we haven't received all the information. We haven't received traffic surveys. We haven't seen the design. I don't actually know what this delivers tonight, all right? We're voting on spending, because the original motion said commit. $15 million. Commit for what? All right?
Thank you, councillors.
Okay, all right, well...
Councillors, don't interrupt each other. Councillor Kerrison has the floor.
Okay. Look, if there was a change to the motion, I wasn't aware, I'm sorry, but I've got it in front of me, all right? And the words that I highlighted here it said, Part D of the original motion said, authorises the Mayor and CEO to discuss an agreement with the state government to commit the council's match funding over multiple years to reduce the financial burden upon ratepayers and remain financially stable. It did say commit. Now, without detailed designs, do the gallery and the people here tonight, people watching online, do they want me to put my hand up for $15 million when I don't know what it's for? It said it's going to improve Curtis Road, but this announcement's been made on the back of delivering 1,300 homes. I don't know that this $15 million is not purely going to service access points onto Curtis Road to support the development. I don't know what it does. I don't want to spend $15 million for that right now or commit the ratepayer to spending $15 million because I don't know what it does. The second one is it might be to improve that section of upgrade of the road. Great. But the problem with the Curtis Road now is not the whole road, it's the bottlenecks within the road. It's not going to fix the bottlenecks. All right? So from that interruption, I'll go back. Informed decision-making. Decision-making must prioritise the interests of the ratepayer, ensuring full transparency and understanding the proposal of their implications. Traffic survey. We require access to the traffic survey data to understand the current issues and evaluate the effectiveness of proposals and solutions. That's where I'm talking about the bottlenecks. Concept design review. The concept design needs to be presented to assess the proposed scope and to determine if the spending aligns with resolving the traffic concerns. Comprehensive strategy. A holistic strategy for the entire road corridor is essential to avoid fragmented, piecemeal approaches to lead higher costs and inefficiencies. Funding impact transparency. Clarification is needed to ensure the funding will resolve traffic congestion rather than exacerbate issues by increasing traffic volumes. Long-term planning. A coordinated long-term plan for the entire corridor is necessary, avoiding short-term fixes that fail to address the root causes. Funding strategy. Funding strategy must incorporate contributions from the state, federal and local governments to ensure fairness and sustainability. Now, one thing we haven't mentioned much about is federal. All right, but a lot of our growth can be good, but a lot of our growth is to meet immigration policy, which is federal. All right, and I also want to see federal come to the table because I think they hold a part here. State infrastructure responsibility. While Curtis Road may fall under council management, it effectively functions as a state infrastructure due to its role as an arterial feeder road. State government accountability. Northern Expressway and rezoning decisions by the state government have significantly impacted Curtis Road, increasing traffic volumes and congestions. So I think there's got to be some accountability, and it's not about doing it in a piecemeal approach, it's about doing it holistically. Cause the impact, which obviously we've done. Funding justification. Without concept designs, it is unclear if the allocated 15 million will adequately address traffic congestion or simply provide new access to land releases from state government, which we've already spoken about. Equitable funding models. We need to look at that, what they look like. So there's lots and lots and lots. I can go on for a long time. All right. But I do just want to respond to Councillor Van der Peer. There's a couple of things that she did mention. And also what I say, I think we're on the same page. I think we're all on the same page. We want an overall holistic approach. We need this fixed. All right. But, you know, if I'm going to build a brand new house, do I put my garden in first and then go over my garden to build the house? All right, this $15 million, are we going to go back and go, whoops, now we needed an overpass on the railway, we need to do this? All right, I think we've got to be pretty clear. I'm being very basic. Building a house, you don't put your garden in first. But realistically, we need to be practical here as well. So while I agree with Councillor Van der Peer, she's keen to move forward, she's keen to try and get some solutions, that's fantastic. You know, I think force. Councillor Van der Peer mentioned force. I've been in this chamber now 6+ years, and I've heard promises and promises and promises of assistance. All right, and it's fallen flat, fallen short, time and time again. All right, and I honestly believe we've been promised, and brushed and brushed and brushed. So respectfully, as a community, I think we're due to stand up and go, we are loyal, we do deserve some outcomes, and I think it's time that we got some outcomes, all right? And I don't want to point fingers, all right? I can catch up with our local MPs and have a good chat. You know, respectfully, Nick Champion, I saw him at Australia down the weekend and had a good chat. Didn't talk about anything politically, but what I want to do is, you know, see Mr. Nick Champion, our MP, our federal members, all our MPs come into a room and have those discussions. I think it's really, really imperative. So I think spending $15 million without that is probably pretty unwise at this point in time. So this motion, as you said, supports everything. We're acknowledging the $15 million, we're acknowledging the positive intent, but what we want to do is make sure that when we spend ratepayers' money, we're doing it responsibly, all right? And yeah, we don't want to make errors. It's $15 million. If you make a $15 million error now, you're never going to get it back. Look at Curtis Road, all right? And this is the other reason I think state government's got some more to play, because I understand that council want to duplicate Curtis Road at the start. But everything we do on council roads, we've got to get approval of the department. I don't believe the department would approve it at the point in time. All right, even though council said we could see this being a feeder road into the future. Department, no. Now, there might have been many reasons for that. I wasn't here, so I can't judge was it the right decision or not. Wasn't here, don't know the answers. But right now, we, the ratepayer, paid for what was there once. It wouldn't have cost much more at the time, in my view, and I'm looking from the sideline, to duplicate it initially. All right, now we're going to rip that up. We've paid for it. We're going to pay for that forever, effectively. We don't get our money back. All right, so let's make wise decisions. Let's get the research. Let's get the traffic data. Let's get the concept designs. Let's look at whole road of concept and deliver something that's effective long term. Thank you.
got your light on, but as the move of the motion, have you got a question? Is that what you're asking, or?
I would be interested in seconding it, but I think I'd like some more information, either from the CEO or the move of the amendment first. So just for clarity, can I get a bit of a step-by-step understanding of the processes that will lead us to actually taking some action on Curtis Road? So I know you said it would involve, you know, getting a traffic study, receiving findings, doing concept designs. How does that lead us to actually doing something? Or maybe the CEO can provide some advice on what steps he foresees the council taking to take some action.
If the amendment was successful. Mr. Green?
Through the Mayor, so I won't speak to the amendment, Councillor, as it's not my amendment. I will speak to what I perceive as the process that we need to undertake. We're advised that the state government is undertaking 2 traffic studies at the moment. One's a more broad study in Northern Adelaide around traffic movements. The other one's more specific to Curtis Road and some other surrounding roads. That traffic study will reveal the important data that will advise about whether traffic movements are occurring through the network. That will be an important input into a concept design for a Curtis Road solution. Once a concept plan is agreed, that would then move to a more detailed design plan, and it's at that stage that some more accurate costing can be determined. Given the nature of the road, the delivery of that plan, I suspect, will need to be in stages, so it'll be important to understand what those stages will be, over what period of time, and then there's the all-important issue of how much is it going to cost and who's going to pay for what.
So,
you can't speak to the item, Councillor, so unless you've got another question, because you've moved the original motion, so...
I have no more questions.
Thank you. Does the amendment find a seconder? I've got Councillor Onyazans.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to support the amended motion, because if we look at it closely, it does not take away the intent of the original motion. The point Councillor Kerrison pointed out on point 4, that it is important for us to have an information session. Will provide elected members with the opportunity to understand the implications of matching the government's funding, both also for the ratepayers and the council's position. And obviously, what Councillor Kerrison is pointing out is that there should be a thorough assessment of any implications that we might face along the way. So, yeah, I'd just like to support the amended motion. And obviously, our decision must prioritize the interests of ratepayers, ensuring full transparency and understanding of the proposals and further implications for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Onyazans. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm quite happy to support the amendment because it substantially supports just about all of the original amendment that Councillor Vandermeer has put, but it does give council and its residents some comfort about us knowing exactly what's going on. But first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Bothy for his excellent research on the recent Curtis Road, but I think it would be valuable to look back on the history of Curtis Road for the benefit of both elected members who aren't aware of it and also for our residents. And in saying that, Curtis Road came into existence in the 1850s to service the tiny regional settlement of Angle Vale on the banks of a river owned land by the Heaslip family of Smithfield. The area was urbanised by the state government in 1955, recognised as a suburb in 1853, and at that time, Curtis Road was a small feeder track running east-west, crossing the newly built railway line to meet the main North Road. Small townships of Virginia and Angle Vale were the only settlements in the area at that time, and gradually the city of Manapara developed and in 1997 amalgamated with the city of Elizabeth. In 2002, the City of Playford signed a 15-year Memorandum of Understanding with the state government to rejuvenate the older suburbs of Playford, and work commenced on stage 1, named Rosewood in Elizabeth North, and a small area in the Peachy Belt which became known as the early Playford Alive. And also at this time, the Northern Expressway was merely an idea in the planning, and work did eventually commence in 2008. At this time, large areas of the Cadastral were rezoned from agricultural land to residential land. This rezoning is the elephant in the room, and it is having a disastrous effect on the City of Playford and Curtis Road. The Memorandum of Understanding became a distant memory when large areas of land were rezoned and sold to developers, resulting in some 18+ land releases over the past 25 years, no infrastructure considerations, water or sewerage or draining, being factored into those developments. Local government, ladies and gentlemen, has no control over these rezoning decisions, and this has resulted in Curtis Road, which was a small feeder track, turning into a major arterial road from Anglevale Road to the main north. When the State Planning Act, under the leadership of a gentleman by the name of Mr. Luigi Rossi, came to Council, he discussed the rezoning proposals and the Northern Expressway implications. At that time, Council was unanimous in its attempts to have Curtis Road made a dual carriageway. Indeed, concept designs and artists' impressions were drawn up and shown. However, the state government decided in its wisdom that traffic would not be an issue, and according to the state planners, it was only necessary to have one road each way. Despite Council's desperate efforts, our concerns fell on deaf ears, and we are now faced with the consequences of these decisions made by the state government. Yes, Curtis Road, a 180-year-old road built to service a community of less than 200, is in definite control and care of the Playford Council, but it now services a population of 110,000. But the issues that have been created, again, are completely out of Council's control or the ability to influence. Until Council is able to apply for federal and state funding to address Curtis Road, we have to await the release of the state government traffic study that was announced prior to the last election. And until this happens, Council can take no action whatsoever to apply for grant funding. I am delighted that the federal and state governments have announced funding for roundabouts on Curtis, and this is something that Council has been lobbying for many, many years. The state government has announced funding for Curtis and has suggested Council matches the $15 million costs. There's no time frame or release of the Curtis Road study promised, which places Council in the invidious position of having to commit $15 million to something we yet know nothing about. So in my opinion, Council should be diligent in its exploration of what current programs and projects would possibly have to be shelved, cancelled or postponed to pay for this initiative. It should also be noted that the impost on the ratepayers of this city, bearing in mind the millions of dollars required to service Riverlea over the next years, and the reluctance of elected members to increase rates or commit to loans, I feel the following resolution on the agenda complements this motion, and it will give the Chamber a considered understanding of the issues facing this Chamber over the next years. And whilst we are, as a Council, we are unable to commit future funding councils to funding arrangements, and the current decisions the Chamber will take are probably some of the most critical decisions that will map the future for the City of Playford and should be examined in every detail possible prior to making that commitment. It is also absolutely imperative that all members of Council are in control of the facts prior to making any such an important decision. And I can see nothing but added value for our residents to continue discussions with the state and federal governments. Thank you.
Councillor Norris.
Thank you. I don't know how to follow up from that because that would pretty much covered everything. That was brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, just in relation to the amendment, so actually I will speak to both. So obviously I appreciate the sentiment and recent announcement of the $15 million funding from the state government. You know, we've got something going, it's good, we've got traction, and obviously that will help with some aspects of Curtis Road. I do think that councillors are an integral part of deciding council funding and therefore need to be involved in all aspects of any agreement that goes through for Curtis Road. It's not just, you know, here's $15 million, off you go, don't even need to tell us what's going on. That is not responsible government. I do note, and it has been mentioned, that $30 million will not deliver a duplication of Curtis Road. So while it sounds great that we're putting money to the problem, again, depending on what the project even is this something that we're going to have to dig up again later? How is this going to help? What parts of Curtis Road is it going to help? Is it for the new development that's just been announced? Is it further down the road? Again, we don't know. We need to ensure timing and minimal disruption to motorists. Again, I don't even know how that's going to happen. It's already going to be interesting to see what happens with the SA Water stuff that's happening in March. Another thing I need to remind all councillors of is that obviously in regards to funding, we need to revisit our annual business plan. We've got a lot of long-term planning, a lot of projected projects coming up that we're essentially going to have to put on the back burner and delay. So there are other things, and I get that Curtis Road's priority number one, but there are other things within council now that we will not be able to deliver because we have to remove funding from other areas to put towards Curtis Road. Not saying that we won't, because I think it is very important to do. The other thing I wanted to mention is in relation to council debt. So we have been very, very fiscal and very responsible with bringing down council debt since 2018, and that's still continuing in the current chamber. And I think we do that by being responsible and understanding the projects and the things that we're committing to. So I highly agree with the fact that we need to know what is going on with this project before we commit to anything. Thanks.
Are there any other councillors wishing to speak to the motion? Amendment. Councillor Small-Jane.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. I just have a question for staff. I'm just looking at this motion, and very similar to the one before. I'm looking at it and going, okay, when we do have so this motion in particular, would this be the normal chain of events when receiving an announcement from announcement of grant money, for example? Would that be our normal chain of events of how we process the grant funds?
Mr Green.
Through the Mayor, thanks, Councillor Smil-Janik. Look, I don't think there is a normal, to be honest, when it comes to these sorts of announcements. I guess if I reiterate my comments earlier, one of the issues is we don't know what the future stages might be. We don't know what the future announcements might look like, which is, I guess, one of the issues for you to contemplate when you're making your decisions tonight.
And just a further question. Yep. With regards to that, with this motion, are council going out of their normal roles and policy guidelines if this motion were to be carried?
Mr Green.
Through you, Mr Mayor. One of the things I think we need to consider as a council with respect to a contribution of this magnitude is whether we should undertake a prudential review. The Local Government Act does exempt the council from prudential reviews when it comes to road infrastructure. However, it doesn't mean you can't do one, and it certainly encourages the council to think about undertaking a prudential review when it comes to significant spend and where there may be significant risk. So on face value, my advice at this point in time would be that a prudential review may very well be a wise thing to do to consider a spend of this magnitude.
Councillor Halls.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I just ask the Mr. Green, it's been announced that we're going to get this $15 million. When would we be likely to get it? How long will they hang on to it, or are we allowed to hang on to it before we actually start doing up the road and putting money to it, please?
Mr. Green.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thanks Councillor Halls. I'm not sure that we have been told we will receive the $15 million. I think what we've heard is there'll be an allocation made towards it. So at this point in time, I'm not of the view that the money will come to us. This is not a grant arrangement. We didn't apply for it. This is an announcement saying that the state government will allocate $15 million towards the Curtis Road. It doesn't say how that allocation will occur.
I think what I'm trying to get at is, if it takes us 3 years to get the rest of the funding put together, will they still do it in 3 years, considering that there's going to be an election when we have ours?
Mr. Graham.
Councillor Halls, we don't have answers to these questions. Okay. I know what you know, and that's that there was an announcement that there'll be a $15 million allocation. We weren't pre-warned of that announcement, and we've not had anything formal since then.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Doherty. I just want to start off with a question first. Through you, Mayor, to Sam Green and the administrations, can I get informed of how many growth infrastructure deeds we have across the city of Playford, please? Don't need to give me the dollar value, but approx number. How many deeds do we have currently across the city of Playford?
Okay, go to Mr. Deneen, but can you just clarify, in terms of deeds, you mean roads?
Yeah,
social,
road deeds. Roads.
Deeds aren't all just
roads that we drive on.
Yep.
Roads.
Mr. Deneen.
Through the chair, we've got 3 deeds in place across 3 of our growth areas. The interventions within those deeds, I would be at a guess. I would need to take that on notice, sorry.
Further clarity, I believe you sit on a committee and you do an exceptional job. I think you'd have some sort of insight in approx deeds, or if you're uncomfortable to answer that as a senior staff, happy to defer it to Sam. I heard there was upwards of 100 interventions across the city of Playford.
If I was to guess, it would be a number significantly lower than that in terms of road infrastructure upgrades. Somewhere closer to 30 to 40 would be my guess.
All right, no worries. And would I be right in saying that then there's stormwater management deeds as well that go hand in hand with our road deeds?
Mr. Deneen.
Through the chair, the stormwater deeds work separate to the road deeds. So the stormwater deeds, again, are interim in nature, except for the Anglevale South, which we're looking to finalise. They manage regional stormwater as opposed to the stormwater that comes off of the roads.
Beautiful, fantastic. So I think this is a prime example, and in Councillor Halls, I think you've just highlighted a prime example of unknowns, a series of unknowns that not just us as a community are fully unaware of through the announcement of a non-committed announcement, let's understand tonight. But the fact that there's a number of deeds, and this is a complex, although this is my baby and I've been speaking about this 2018 and I've got an invested interest in this particular topic, this demonstrates that we don't have a full scope of understanding of when it comes to interventions of road infrastructure, stormwater management, social deeds and anything else outside of the decision making that we make tonight. I give praise to the staff 100% on the yearly negotiations that we sit at the table with the Minister of the day. We need to look further than just this $15 million. This is $15 million to service future growth, not growth that we're seeing today, not the delayed infrastructure that we're seeing tomorrow and the delayed infrastructure that we have seen for the last 5, 10 to 15 years. We need to understand. I love forward looking by governments. That's great. I love the fact that they want to unlock more land and that we've got a significant housing crisis right before our eyes. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in this housing crisis in my next motion, and I'm going to speak freely about some information that I've been provided relating to that one. But to sit here when we've just gone through 4 years of heartache of that this council was about to go to some $200 million debt ceiling level, and the fact that we spent the first 6 to 2 years having to reprioritise our infrastructure projects because that wall that we had that we were looking at could not be achieved. And I think the words of one of our senior staff at the time was that we were going to burst the bubble of our administration in not being able to deliver those infrastructure projects. We had to make the tough decisions to defer some projects and implement a 12-year, 3-themed, over 4 years each, strategy so that we could actually start and complete infrastructure projects across the city of Playford. We were borrowing to operate for years on years and years. Do we not understand what that meant? That meant we were going to the bank, we were borrowing money on top of our capital costs just to pay the bills of this council. That is not prudent spending. We made the decision to make some tough decisions to return us back to surplus budget within 2 years. Why do we do it? Because we made the decision to hire this person, Sam Green, and through his senior staff and the staff below him, we were able to turn our finances around. We then got hit with the COVID times, and we still sailed through that beautifully as well. I could not understand that how we could, when we have so many unknown questions, we have no answers to these questions, that we could sit here and allocate $15 million. And this is the topic that I brought to this chamber back in 2020. And a number of the elected members at that time stood and stared at me going, why would you bring such a topic when we don't have the answers to our community? But it was the fact that we needed to. There was a number of, all of the elected members here tonight who got re-elected stood with me at Peachy Road and Curtis and Heathsip Road, and a number of other intersections along Curtis Road with the then government, Liberal government. And what did we do? We put pressure, we used the media, we used our socials, and we were hard on that government at that time because we wanted something to be done about Curtis Road. We were honest with our community in saying that that was a state-owned council road. We've never said it wasn't. But we have also been very honest with our community to say that we're going through growing pains and that we cannot fund every bit of infrastructure that is required to sustain the growth of. Last term, it was 7 people moving into the city of Playford, and we struggled then as a council. Now, that is not saying that us as elected members have done poor management. No, it's not, because we had to remove an administration and bring in administration. We had millions of dollars in a hole in our depreciation schedule that we had to fill. We had to get our finances back on track because we were borrowing to operate. We had to make decisions to bring in a 12-year strategic plan. We had to address the tree canopy strategy of a declining canopy across the city of Playford, if not the state, because they were the bold decisions that we made at that time. The time now, because we've made all those decisions, is start talking about growth. But I would be gobsmacked to see that the journey that we have been on, we could sit there and say that we're going to allocate $15 million to a section of road that we don't even know what it is going to actually provide. We need a holistic approach, just like our annual business plan, just like our 4-year delivery plan, and just like our long-term financial plan. They are all long-term goals that give the full vision of what we are going to invest in when we sit here in a chamber to put our hand up. I don't know, and my colleagues, we've been in a recent meeting about a growth infrastructure schedule, and this is public, and I've just sent it to all the elected members. A number of these projects are being proposed to be delayed or taken off the table. So I, again, don't understand how we could say that the projects before us, that this elected members have lobbied for a number of these roads to be on the agenda, on the table, but want to be taken off again. So it is clear, and I will say it again, We do not have the grip on growth, and we, when I say we, local government, state government and federal government, I don't care who you are and what colours you're aligned to, or if you don't give goddamn any interest in politics, we need to sort growth out. If we go across this type of decision making by bringing such multi-million-dollar agendas to council without prudent understanding, we will bankrupt this council very easily. It is not hard to throw tens of millions of dollars at stormwater, then at roads, and then at sports facilities, etc., etc. We need to understand we've done and we've gone on a journey to get our finances in some great order. But I'm looking at this current growth rolling schedule and we can't even deliver. The state government can't even deliver to it. And that's not the poor performance of the current one. The former government couldn't even deliver this infrastructure as well. So I encourage everyone, we need to have information sessions because I need all of us to be over what does growth mean? How can we manage it? And what projects are there before us so that we can make the decision as one. The system is broken, and as I said, Sam, it's not the poor performances of your staff at all. It's the fact that the state government of the day don't like to debt fund growth, and unfortunately, we debt fund it. We need the state government to change as well, and collaboratively, we do need intervention from federal government. It's clear as day. The north is the fastest growing region, I would say, in South Australia. The south has had its journey, and it's now ours. I can't support the original motion, but I'm happy to go on a journey where there's 15 elected members, there's the mayor, and there's all of our great staff that can be in a room, and let's look at this holistically. We need to see the solution from Main North Road all the way down to Heaslip Road, if not Angavara Road. Thanks, everyone.
Councillor Stroud.
I'd like to put that the motion be put, thank you.
Okay, formal motion, the motion be put. Does it find a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Smallwood-Smith. So we've got the formal motion that the motion be put, so let's the amendment we're debating be put. There's no further discussion on that, so I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. Division's been called, so the formal motion is set aside. So those voting for the formal motion to rise in their place. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the motion is carried. So then we just go to the vote for the amendment. So we just voted to have the formal motion that the motion be put. So the amendment, there's no further debate, just for those in the gallery. Okay. All right, the minute taker has not completed all the divisions. So can I ask you to stand, those voting for again? Councillor Halls. I think the minute taker has got that now, so that the minute taker will just correct that. So Councillor Blaney is voting for the motion. So 1, 2, 3. Yep, so that's carried. The formal motion is carried.
Mr. Mayor, I'm
Yep.
actually voting for the motion.
Right, yep. So I need to get the minute taker to
It says on there I'm voting
against it. All right, we'll give the minute taker a moment to catch up with that. Minute taker happy? All councillors happy? There they are. Halls. I believe it was Councillor Halls called the division? Or Councillor Vanderpeen? All right, so the formal motion is carried, that we put the motion. So now we need to vote on the amendment straight up now. There's no more debate. So we're voting on the amendment that we've seen before us, which I'll get the minute taker in a moment to put back up on the screen so you can see it. And then we go straight to that. There's no more debate on that. So I'll now call for that. So now I'll call for that. So we're putting the motion's been carried to be put. We put the amendment. So those voting for the amendment. Those voting against? Councillors, put your hands down. For the third time, we had a formal motion that the motion be put. What that means is there's no further debate. We have an amendment, then we had a formal motion, which is the motion. It's the formal language is the motion be put, but it's actually the amendment. So that's been carried. That means there's no further debate on the amendment. So now we must go straight to voting for the amendment, and that's what you're voting on now, councillors. So there's no more discussion on the amendment. We're now voting on the amendment that's there. Is everybody clear? You've been in this chamber for nearly 3 years. We should be able to get this. So I'll now put the amendment as up on the screen. Those voting for the amendment? Those against? That's unanimous. It's carried. Division's been called by Councillor Marsh. So the motion is set aside. The vote's set aside. Those voting for the amendment, can you please rise in your place? And for the ease of the minute taker, that is everybody. So the amendment now becomes the motion. There is opportunity for those that haven't spoken to the amendment or the mover of the original motion, even though the mover gets the right to close that if they wish. By moving the motion be put, there was an opportunity for the amendment mover to have their close. So if there's any councillor that hasn't spoken so far in the debate, they can. If not, then there's the opportunity to close the debate. There's no other discussion. Councillor Van der Peer.
Sorry, I was going to blame the technology, but I think it's the person using it. I just want to close the debate by thanking everyone for kind of getting on board with the sentiment of the original motion. I think the sentiment still remains the same, though I think it has been watered down a little bit, so that's a little bit disappointing. But I did support the amendment because, you know, any progress is better than no progress. I think there were some incorrect assumptions made during the debate of the amendment to the original motion, that, you know, the original motion was sort of, you know, committing $15 million with no effort to seek, you know, the plans of what the upgrade would include, and that was actually incorrect. So I do want to correct the record that I think we do really need to be responsible about, you know, finding funding pathways for upgrades like this, and we are faced with an opportunity from the state government to come to the table to help fix our own road. So yes, the debate was quite interesting, I think, but this slightly watered down amendment, you know, is still progress, but I look forward to striving for more progress in the future.
Thank you, councillors. That closes the debate. So, councillors, we now have the amendment which has become the motion, and I'll put that to the meeting. All those in favour? All those against? I've got to call the item first, Councillor Halls. The item is carried. Division is being called by Councillor Halls. So the motion is set aside. Those voting for the motion, if you can rise in your place. So for the ease of the minute taker, that is everybody. All right, councillors, we now move on to the next motion on notice, item 12.2, informal information sessions on infrastructure and requirements for city growth. Councillor Marsh. Councillor Marsh.
Thanks, Mayor Doherty, just getting the motion up. Yeah, thanks everyone. This does lead into from the previous motion, and that is to continue. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to take a step back from learning from the December Ordinary Council meeting. I sat down and rewatched that back at home, and I thought it was valid to take on some views and some points of elected members and just understand what was it and why did that decision go as it is. As very similar as I did with the tree canopy strategy. It didn't get up the first time, but the second time it did in taking the views on. And this is probably where part A has come into it, and that is the fact that I gained a bit of a sentiment and an understanding that maybe there's a void that needs to be filled, and that's with the information of growth and really how complex growth actually is across the city of Playford. And I don't think it should be on any of us elected members who have day jobs outside of local government to have a full understanding of growth. Knowing full well, we need to run our eyes over a number of topics. So part A brought along a journey that up to you, Sam, as the CEO, get to select in relation to bringing themes forward and breaking it down to the elected members here to be able to participate in workshops for your staff and your administration to present the required information through to us, and not just a theme base, but be able to use the number of documents that is part of what guides the decision-making of council, and such documents like our stormwater management plan, our open space, our deeds, so on so forwards. Because there is, as I said, there's not an expectation that we should all understand page by page each of those policies. I think these themes break down a very similar approach to our annual business plan, which is which I took as a guidance. Break down so that we could participate in those workshops, get a lengthy understanding, and at some point in time we can have that discussion, that robust discussion of Curtis Road, or it might be within this workshops, or it might be within a couple of months you've chosen to bring forward a workshop style with us. Plan B hasn't changed a lot, but I did take on a missing MP that we did have in there due to the redistributions and the fact that we can't align all the diaries of our MPs to a perfect point, so it might require a couple of meetings for us to be flexible with. Along the journey of growth, it's going to be a complex system going over the next 4 years. We've got SA Water pumping out $1.2 billion of infrastructure over the next 4 years. That's a mixture of the north and south. And it's actually great to see SA Water finally come up with a 4-year delivery plan that our CEO can hopefully align our infrastructure to, because we know how they have been in the past when we've tried to liaise with that organisation under the former government when it came to the Virginia Main Street. So I praise the Minister being able to get a 4-year delivery plan from that department, and now which I hope will guide us, and maybe we can bring some efficiencies in bolting on some of our own capital projects going forwards. We know that it's going to go along Curtis Road, and I really wished this SA Water delivery was able to be a more united approach where we could underground power lines, we could duplicate the next step of that Curtis Road, or that we could come on board and do what we require to do with footpaths or curbing or stormwater, whatever it is. I think there was a perfect opportunity missed there when they're about to rip up some of that road, and it's going to be a headache and a heartache. I want us all to go on a journey. I want the decision at the end of it, though, to be a journey that we've all collaborated together and that we can all stand out there together and say, hey, we've got a grip on growth, because we don't have a grip on growth. And if we think we do, I could use another word, but it's not the truth. I want to make it clear, and I've said it 2 other times, I am not having to go at your staff in their efforts that they do and the regular meetings that they have with DIT. I'm calling out the system that guides the state government and us together in our delivery of infrastructure. And I want us, and I think someone spoke about a committee or something like that. I would love to have a committee. I would love to have us part of a journey which we can really have some robust workshops, and let's deliver infrastructure that is future-proofed and that is in line with growth. We need it. So I'm not going to talk anymore. It is my baby. I do love growth. It is a challenge. It is a great challenge because this talks about, we need to be serious though, because this growth is great. We welcome growth and it shapes the community. That's what I love about it. We can decide what infrastructure goes down and when it does. So I hope we get the support and let's go along the journey together. Let's get a coach, let's get all the MPs, let's get all the elected members, let's get the staff and let's go on together. Thanks everyone.
Find a seconder, Councillor Kerrison.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. Thank you, Councillor Marsh. You've taken the motion and workshopped it, and we've had some discussions along the way. So thank you very much for returning this to the chamber this evening. I think the original motion, this has gone into more detail. I support that detail, but for me, it's really about collaboration. And as we heard tonight from the deputies, that's a really strong theme that is really, really supported. I think it's so important. That's the best process I can see for driving efficiencies and outcomes between the state government, between state government, federal governments, and local government. So if we're not in the same room talking about these things, I think we've lost something. So it's really about delivering our community. You know, if council goes down one path and state goes down another path, there's a big cost to community. It's not only in poor outcomes like Curtis Road now, it also comes to a cost to every ratepayer across Playford. So these issues don't affect just the people that are in the growth zone. It affects everyone, every ratepayer at Playford. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind. You know, since I come to this chamber, when I first considered running, I remember Mr Jackson did a report, and I think it was in a messenger paper or a bunyip or somewhere. And in that article, if I remember correctly, it said something about the debt projection of Playford was something like $250 million. That was a real concern, and that's one reason I ran to represent my residents, the City of Playford. So all credit to the chamber and all credit to the administration, all credit to our CEO. I think we've done a great job. The current debt level is $69.7 million as of, I think it was December. But don't be fooled. The debt ceiling is $150 million. That means if we deliver everything that needs to be delivered in our plans of delivery, that's where our debt will return to. And that doesn't include our rolling schedules. That falls outside of what we've already got in our budgets. We've got a lot to deliver. So I also want to go back to when we were elected, we do an oath to faithfully, impartially and fulfilly feel our duties in the public interest. And wholeheartedly, I can put my heart on the table tonight and say to you, I think this collaborative approach is doing exactly that, fulfilling my duties to represent the residents and ratepayers of Playford. So I think there's so much that if we get wrong, and tonight we spoke about potentially some bottlenecks. If we do part of Curtis Road and it increases traffic flow, all right, it's only going to add to those bottlenecks. So once again, there's so much we've got to deliver. If we can't sit down and look at our rolling schedule, what we've got to deliver, and work with the state and federal departments to come up with the unified approach, we're seriously missing something in the interest of our residents and our community. And at what cost will that come to? All right, and when I say what cost, it's community dysfunction, interruption, and it's also in our rates as a dollar cost. So I really encourage you to support this motion tonight. Obviously, we can't make anyone come to the table, and I'm keen for these discussions. Put the invites out and let's invite them. This is not to, you know, and as I said, I saw our local MP, Mr Nick Champion, Australia Day, had a chat to him. It was a good chat, all right? And I have no reasons that we can't invite our MPs to the table in a friendly manner and have constructive discussion. That's what I'm looking for. The last time I moved this, it was mentioned that I did miss out Lee Oldenwater, and that's obviously he's coming into one of the electorates by a realignment of boundary. I was certainly hoping to get these discussions underway before that occurred. but I'm also very open to having him included in that discussion as early as possible, given that the boundary will be realigned as well. So, all right, hopefully everyone can see the sound, responsible approach here and support this tonight. Thank you.
Any other councillors wishing to speak? Councillor Baker.
Oh, sorry. I thought Councillor Halls came up first. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I'm quite happy to support this motion. Very briefly, we often complain about organisations working in silos and not serving the general public in any way. And I feel that the same applies to the 3 tiers of government. And I would hope that this resolution will cover that sort of issue and it will bring all levels of government together to work in the best interests of the City of Playford.
Councillor Halls.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'd just like to say a few thoughts that have been bothering me. So I'll just say it. I must admit that I'm very concerned about the passive bullying over the last few months and the continuance if the ministers are unable to attend the time or accept our invitations. So I'm also worried about the cost and the time frame because I can't see one here, or whether we're going to have a time frame. And that worries me about the info sessions being, because there seems to be so many that we need to have as well. Right here. I'm concerned about the energy expended and the positive discussions that may not be able to be put into the state in the short-term or long-term strategic plans. I would like to ask the CEO, I just kind of remember, because I'm in reference to inviting the federal members and that to a group meeting, I'd just like to ask, I'm sure I read in our EM policies that the CEO and Mayor are the spokespersons to represent our views to the state and federal government on our behalf. Is that, do I remember it correctly or am I?
Mr Graham.
Thank you, through Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Halls. I think what you're referring to is the Council's media policy. So the Mayor is absolutely the spokesperson for the Council when it comes to matters of speaking with the media. It doesn't extend exclusively to other tiers of government.
Thank you. I just wanted to make that clear in my mind. And if this motion had come as detailed as it is now, had been put forward in the ordinary meeting in December 2024, I think that there would probably have been more people voting for it. Thank you.
Councillor Bayani.
Thank you, dear Mayor. I also wanted to talk about this motion we've got tonight. Honestly, it raised a few red flags with me. First off, I just let you know that I'm not a member of any political parties, not Labour, not Liberal, and I'm not working for any of the states or federal members, but still I do have a positive relations with them as a councillor. I don't know why some of the elected members are afraid of talking to other states and federal members about the world's issues. Would be interesting to know why. And let's clear something up. We as a council already have positive relations with other levels of government. So it's a bit strange to suggest we don't. I mean, many of us are already doing that, aren't we? And I can't help but feel frustrated by the tone of some of the conversation around here. The social media posts we've seen lately, they are all just childish, targeting those of us who dare to disagree with what we believe was not right and sticking up with our values. We are adults, and we should be acting like adults. Spreading hate and negativity doesn't do us any favor. is just bringing you down and creates more division. Let's focus on working together on the matters that lead to action instead of creating more dramas. So disheartening to know one of our fellow councillors, Councillor Marsh, is one of the admins of the Facebook page and is involved in promoting such divisive content, spreading hatred and negativity, and causing division and conveying wrong and one-sided information to all the residents. This is just so disheartening to see a representative of our community participating in such behavior. To finish off tonight, I'm not supporting this motion as I think it's duplicating the previous motion, which already passed and got supported. Thank you.
Turn your microphone.
Sorry.
Councillor Smiljank.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. I just have a couple of questions for council staff. If this, would this be detrimental, if this motion was carried, would it be detrimental to our community and current projects if we were to reallocate staff members and their time to fulfil this motion?
Mr Grant.
Through the Mayor, thanks Councillor Smiljank. Look, any time that staff are required to move away from the task they're doing, they will only be able to spend less time on it. So in that respect, it would be a reprioritisation of staff's time, yes. Having said that, many of our staff work on these issues day in, day out. So there's not a great deal of work in terms of pulling something like this together. It's essentially what we've got a whole team of people doing every single day.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you. I just want to say how disappointing the political potshots have been lately. I think it speaks volumes of their character. These potshots have purely been out of convenience. So next time anyone wants to claim I'm blocking access to someone, I hope they get their facts first. I welcome MPs to these discussions, and it will be interesting to hear what they have to say about council and the elected members' behaviours.
Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to repeat what Councillor Hall said about the bullying conversations. Over Christmas, I did not have a good Christmas break due to council members in this chamber bullying people over Messenger and phone calls. I will support the motion due to the fact that it hasn't been rushed, it's been thought throughout the Christmas break. It's been spoken about with other elected members. And I'm not sure why it says Councillor Marsh has written the motion, because I'm sure a lot of other people have written it as well. I voted against the December motion due to the fact that Lee Oldenwater wasn't included in the original motion, and Part A also wasn't included in the original motion. It has said in this motion that it's going to be constructively spoken about before we go to the MPs. So we're not going to go and abuse them for no reason. Like, we all understand we've got issues within the local government area, Curtis Road, Heathslip Road, whatever. I just don't understand why we need to stand here and argue about who has done what, who has blocked motions, who has put our faces all over Facebook, and one of the admins is our councillors.
Councillor Antilis.
Thank you, Mayor. Interesting debate that we find ourselves engaged in. Councillors, let me remind you, you're a public member in terms of you're on local government, therefore you're subject to scrutiny. That's fair and reasonable. If you put yourself out there as an elected member, you are subject to criticism. And here they are tonight. Here are the people that are criticising all of us because we're not doing our job right. They have every right to do that. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but you just respectfully, you have to develop a thicker skin, because that's just the nature of the game. You're subject to criticism. It's fair game. We are grown-ups, yes, I agree. If you consider it to be passive bullying or some sort of bullying, again, you just have to strongly consider whether you believe you're up to the job of presenting yourself out to the public, because they have every right to criticise us. Okay, and I'm going to defend my fellow councillor. What the irony in pointing out that Councillor Marsh, who works tirelessly, he's got a young family, he's got a full-time job, he works his butt off, and he's involved with a lot of groups, and yes, he's one admin out of probably 5 or 6, to single him out, and you talk about bullying, isn't it? I just find that ironic. You're now personally going after him. Could we say that's bullying? I'm not going to say it's bullying. I'm going to say that he deserves to be scrutinised, just like every one of us here. The motion here tonight is about collaboration. It's about coming together. No one is free from scrutiny, from examination, including the MPs, including the local MPs. They're big boys, they're big girls. They can stand up for themselves. If they don't want to attend, they don't have to attend. As Mr. Hanton said, they don't have to attend, but people are watching, and people have a right to critique what is going on. If you don't like it, unfortunately, you should strongly consider what your position is on council. And I say that respectfully because you are in the public spotlight. That's the way it goes. Thank you.
Councillor Norris.
Off. Thank you. Thank you. I definitely remember pressing the buzzer and then it disappeared, so having some technical difficulties. I actually want to ask a quick question of the mover, so Councillor Marsh, in regards to when we're talking about inviting, obviously, the state government representatives, or the state government, sorry, the MPs, are we also looking at if they're unavailable to have a representative? Or is it just we need the MPs there, and if they can't make it, then so be it?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Doherty, for the right to reply. More than happy for them to have a representative, as they would normally do in their daily duties as well. If they can't make some, I think that would be very fair in allowing.
Thank you. So are we just assuming that that's part of it, or should we put in that we're inviting the state MPs or their representative?
Councillor Marsh.
Yeah, thanks. Through you, Mayor Doherty, if we have to insert or delegate, and the chamber would like so, more than happy to do so, but I'd leave it to the fact that MPs have the ability to delegate a representative in their daily duties, and that's sort of norm for us to see across the community.
If Councillor Marsh is happy to leave, the only other option would be to seek leave of the meeting to add those words in. Otherwise, it could be amended if you wish to amend it, Councillor Norris. Can you just repeat that, Councillor Norris? Can you just repeat that, please?
Sorry, I was just saying, I'm essentially asking the question to yourself and Mr. Green whether, we're just making the assumption that the representatives are allowed, or, do we put it in writing? Otherwise, the MP will just say, sorry, unavailable. No one else is in their place.
With the advice of Mr. Green, obviously you'd send an invitation. They may decline the offer or may suggest they may have a representative. I think it's up to them. They may decline completely or send a representative, and then council could assess if that representative is appropriate to meet the needs of the discussion, as we don't know who they may or may not send.
Yep. All right. Look, I'm happy to leave it as long as it's sort of essentially noted that, we invite you to this information session or a representative. Sorry, I'll stand back up. The other things I wanted to quickly address, and again, I think we got a bit of mudslinging going on in the room. There's a lot of assumptions that just because Councillor Marsh is an admin of a group that he's posting everything, and I think that in itself could be perceived as a form of bullying because you're essentially calling him out for something that you have no evidence of him doing. Councillor Halls mentioned that there is a lot of bullying going on in the chamber. Essentially, there is code of conduct for that. If you have proof of it, pop it in. Councillor Bayani is talking about Councillor Marsh spreading hate. Again, sorry, I'm not even going to say Councillor Marsh. The forum itself is actually just stating what happened in the December council meeting. I do not see any form of hate. If you are getting hate from the residents, it might be because of the decisions that you've made. The other thing I just wanted to address is that, okay, I didn't vote for it. Sorry, Councillor Strout said she didn't vote for it because Lee Oldenwilder wasn't incorporated into the last motion. There's opportunities to amend. So that could have been done. And there was also quite a considerable amount of robust discussion had in December as well. And I think we covered a lot of information. And it's only now that you're coming back, once it's been made public, to go, oh, perhaps we need to actually agree with this because it is a good idea. Thanks.
Councillor Ricky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I want to begin with by saying that we live in a great democracy where everyone is, has the opportunity to come and have their say. And tonight, we've listened from our residents, and that's what I love about our country. And that's why I was, decided to put my hand up in 2018.
Councillors, can you please stop interrupting? Councillor Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. That's why I decided to put my hand up in 2018 to represent my community on council. I represent Ward 5, the established suburbs of Elizabeth, and I'm proud to represent my community. Mr. Mayor, I've been here for 6 years. All I've seen is and heard is words, but no actions from those councillors who are moving this motion. Curtis Road is a major issue and has been a major issue for our council for a number of years, and residents have seen no action. It's a council road, and council staff, to their credit, have been trying and working hard behind the scenes to transfer this road to state government because it's out of our scope to be able to deliver such a major infrastructure project. And Mr. Mayor, I also want to acknowledge those councillors who raised their concerns about bullying and harassment they're facing on social media and by some elected members. Yes, we are public figures. Yes, we should be facing criticism by the community, but from co-councillors, attacking you on social media or providing this information, feeding it to their friends to attack councillors, in my opinion, that's just wrong. And that just goes to show how low these councillors can get when they don't get the wish or the motions through the council.
Point of order. An assertion has been raised by Councillor Reefy that the councillors are low for going to their friends and feeding them information. I asked Councillor Reefy to provide evidence of that. Otherwise, that is a baseless assertion with no factual basis.
Thank you. Councillor Reefy, would you like to
Thank you,
rephrase
Mr. Mayor.
and apologise
As we
for that?
heard tonight from one of the deputies, that one of the councillors is the admin on the social media page. And to my understanding, the post could be from that councillor, or that councillor could be feeding that information to other admins to post those information. So I'm assuming, and to the if that councillor would...
Yeah, councillors, we've heard a bit about this Facebook page tonight. It'd be interesting potentially to hear from the councillors themselves about what they may or may not be doing on that Facebook page. But without that knowledge, there are avenues for councillors. If you have concerns about, and I'll raise it now, about bullying and harassment, there is procedures under the elected member code of conduct. And if there is evidence via messenger or phone calls that a member has received, I strongly encourage them to report that to the relevant authority as with, if you've raised it in this council chamber tonight. In relation to the other items, I would be cautioning elected members to remind you that you don't have parliamentary privilege. while you have limited privilege in acting in good faith, there has been a number of items raised tonight that does have some concerns, and quite legitimate concerns, about the actions inside and outside of this chamber of elected members. But I would strongly encourage members in this meeting to be very mindful of how they behave in this meeting as we move forward. So I strongly encourage Councillor Arifi to limit assumptions at this point in time. But having said that, there's a number of things that have been raised by members about each other members here tonight that I've got some strong concerns about, and I think will need to be assessed going forward from a number of levels from what I've heard from elected members this evening. Councillor Arifi.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, in my opinion, this motion doesn't achieve anything. Just words, no actions. And over the past 6 years, we haven't seen anything done on Curtis Road. And residents won't see anything because this motion, again, asking for an information session. I'm going to stick to my values and my beliefs and not support this motion because it doesn't deliver any tangible outcome for our residents. If you want to see tangible outcomes, you need to go out and speak to your local members of parliament and have a collaborative approach. The hypocrisy here tonight, Mr Mayor, is those who are talking about collaborative approach, they're the ones who are going on social media and attacking the state government. And there are many videos on social media available, those elected members having a go at the state government. And that's disappointing. And I've been having a great relationship with my state and federal members of parliament, and I've delivered for my community a number of projects. I was able to advocate for Organa Park change room facility, the overlighting, the White Reserve upgrade, which the member for Elizabeth made an election commitment of $400,000, and staff wanted to fund the whole project at once. 1.2 million from council. Unfortunately, one of the councillors, Councillor Rentulis, decided to block that and not fund that project. So my question is, yes, we have residents concerned in the growth areas. What about the established suburbs? Their voices, why weren't their voices were heard when they gave a deputation on council? So here are the hypocrisies we face tonight, Mr Mayor. I was able to advocate with member for Light, Tony Piccolo, to get funding for Mark Oliphant College Kiss and Drop, which Councillor Smallwood-Smith was also involved with. These projects were funded by the state government MPs, and over the last election term, we had received over 10 million election commitments from the state government. And I'm proud to be a Labor member, and I work for member for Enfield, and I've declared that on my election ballots, and I'm actually proud to be the member of a party and work for them. And my objective has always been to serve the community, and that's why the result of the last election was evident, and the community backed me for another term on council. Mr Mayor, I think the councillors need to stop, just putting words on the screen and motions that mean nothing, and focus on getting some tangible outcomes for the residents. And I think that this motion doesn't achieve anything, so I won't be supporting it.
Councillor Hall's already spoken, so have you got a question?
No, I'd like the motion to be put, please.
You can't. You've already spoken.
Have I?
Yeah, so you can't move that formal motion. Someone else can who hasn't spoken, but you can't. Councillor Matabir.
Thank you. I'd just like to say a few words quickly and ask a question about a question that Councillor Hall's asked earlier. Can the council provide advice on what the law states in terms of who is able to speak on behalf of the council?
Mr Green, it's pretty... Mr Green, I can hand over to you, but if you want to speak, but I can get... Well, Councillor Vanderpeer, you can look to Part 3 of the Local Government Act, roles of members, in 58, specific roles of the principal member of a council. Subject to the Act, the role of the principal member of the council as leader of the council is, and it goes through to Ada need some glass, I think it goes down to. So it's got a number of items for the role of the principal member of the council. I can read them all out if you wish me to.
So does it specify who that is, or does?
So there's roles of members in 58, which is specific roles of a principal member, and then 59 is roles of members of councils, which is meaning councillors, and they have 1 through to a large section because they've got a number of different things, and then a number of those are also relevant to a principal member.
So the advice you're providing, Mayor Doherty, is that we can all act as spokespeople for the council?
Well, you're all spokespeople in terms of that you represent electors. In terms of the Act, there is roles for the principal member to be in 58(1)G, that the principal member is to act as the principal spokesperson of the council. But as elected members, there is nothing stopping you from talking to a federal member of parliament. Some of you advocate on behalf of citizens. Some of you see them at Australia Day and chat to them. But when council has specific roles set out via the Act to speak in terms of council's position and what councillors can and can't do, and principal members can and can't do, you can find them as part 3 of the Act, which is 58 and 59. I think it also goes on to some other parts in terms of what members of the council, meaning principal members and councillors, can gain access to information, a whole lot of other things as part of their duties.
So do we have any policies around elected members writing to MPs advocating on local issues?
Not to my knowledge. The only thing I have to be required, I'd have to double check this, I don't have that policy in front of me, is I don't believe councillors are entitled to use council letterhead.
Sorry, what was that?
That councillors are not entitled to use council letterhead. So if you are in using your role, that's the policy that the council has set forth. I haven't got that policy in front of me, but I'm getting a nod from governance. I can't see which Act number that is, but that, yes, so you could talk to your local MP or write to them, but you can't use the council's official letterhead.
Okay. So we can say that we speak on behalf of we're a councillor in our capacity as a councillor writing to a member on an issue. That's fine.
Yes, I mean, I believe you've done that and many members have done that before. You advocate on behalf of your constituents all the time.
I have, but the difference is I was advised that you're not allowed to state that you're speaking on behalf of the council.
Well, that's correct. You're speaking as your elected member, but you're not speaking as the council entity.
Okay.
That's
I'm
the
not
role
sure
of the
if
Mayor and
there's
the
a difference
CEO
there,
to speak as the entity. That's the thing. You can speak as a councillor, but you can't commit the council to X, Y and Z as a councillor.
So you can essentially write in your capacity as a councillor, but specify that you're not speaking on behalf of the council or something like that?
Yes, you could.
Okay, that's good to know. I just want to quickly say that while this motion is quite wordy, I think it could have been summarised a lot easier. It does provide a little bit more context as to what is trying to be achieved here. And again, I'm a bit sick of not seeing much action when it comes to infrastructure. We talk about it a lot, but I want us to start committing to things here, and I want the government to start committing to things here as well. But I do think that these session would be a great opportunity for elected members to explain why they do things the way they do. I think there's a bit of a disconnect and some very strange sort of tactics that take place within this council. So I think it would be a good opportunity for everyone to be held accountable for what they do and what they have and have not delivered over the past, decade. So I will support it for those reasons.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Doherty. Look, we heard from Councillor Reefy what he's achieved in his area, speaking with his MP. My question is, we could all go off as individuals talking to our MPs, but when we're trying to deliver for the city as a whole, my question is, wouldn't it be worth having a joint consideration workshop to consider what needs to be delivered and advocate as a whole on the community? Then we can consider, let's say, rolling schedules and priorities. Would that be a more prudent approach, do you think, from an administration point of view?
Well, ultimately, it's a decision for the council. I don't think Mr. Green can make any comment to that. He's got to lawfully enact a lawful decision that the council makes. Councillor Smith-Janet.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. Who else has been in a meeting that could have been an email or a quick phone call? The future of any council is forever changing, and that's why you have a leadership team that guides and liaises those state and federal MPs through policies as these positions can change. So some policies, for example, the Playford Community Vision 2043, you've got the City of Playford Strategic Plan, you've got the open space strategy, you've got the sports facility strategy. They all go to public consultation, and you as community actually get to give feedback on these policies. I ask, would we be setting a precedence for all other councils to follow suit if this motion were carried, or would it be seen as favouritism to our council for those local MPs to actually come and talk to us? The concern for the topics in this motion, I think, are absolutely valid, and people want answers, but the questions must be clear and must be asked to the appropriate people. You'll see that the question that I asked through the staff just then, they made a comment stating, my concern was that our community would suffer detrimentally if our resources went straight into giving us councillors these information sessions without the thought of our community and current projects and possible future projects that may have actually been missed, which would have been detrimental to our residents and community. I think it's very important that us as councillors, we try not to tarnish the reputation of our fellow elected members, and our council is not courteous nor in line with policy. Our residents can show their opinions emotionally, and they can have a strong view on their community. But as councillors, we need to remain professional, and we need to limit our emotions so we can stay clearly on course. The only way to see reason is to ask the right people for the facts. If the water services are being put in, if there's something else that needs to be put in at the same time, who makes that decision? And I do appreciate Councillor Carrison's, a good example of that was his question without notice tonight, so well done. We just want questions answered. We don't want to point fingers. Let's remain professional. What we as councillors put on the public via social media and or written media is believed to, from the public's point of view, to be true, correct and in line with policy. It does bother me that time gets wasted on matters that seem to be emotional and personal agenda when what really matters is our community. We have our council staff that make our actions and decisions made here come into fruition. I do hope that if this motion is carried, that it's not seen as favouritism towards our council, and that it does not set a precedence for other councils to expect the same privileges.
Are there any other councillors wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Marsh has the right to close if he wishes.
No, happy. I think everyone's spoken in depth on growth, infrastructure from the topic before and this one, so happy for her to go to the vote.
So, councillors, we have the motion before us. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? I declare the motion carried. Division's been called by Councillor Arifi, so the motion is set aside. Those voting for the motion can rise in their place. Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried. We move on to item 13, motions without notice. Are there any motions without notice? Councillor Norris.
I had one, and trust me, this will be very quick. Thank goodness. We got it up there? I've got it in front of me, but you've got it, haven't you? Yep, cool. Guys, this one's nice and simple, and I'll explain why I put it up as a motion. So I'm asking that the administration liaise with all sporting clubs at Agana Park on a weekly basis to update them whilst the current upgrades are occurring. The following should be incorporated into these updates. 1, any updates or changes to accessibility issues to both parking, entry points and use of ovals and courts. And 2, any safety concerns that the clubs need to be aware of. Oh, happy for me to speak. I get that this could be an email, it could be a question, but I want to formalise this in regards to, I understand there's lots of different components going on with Agana Park at the moment. There are a number of sporting clubs there, and I understand that they have some frustrations with knowing on a, I could say day-to-day or even weekly basis, where they can get in, what ovals they can use, whether or not there's, you know, they can have juniors and seniors on at the same time. This is as simple as saying a phone call or an email to say, you know, it's the same as last week, you're all good, or there's actually been some changes to entry points, you can't use this oval at this time. I think it's quite simple. It's not going to take up much of the staff resources, but it's just making sure that clubs are still able to, you know, run their programs that they have, because there are multiple programs. It's not just one team for one club, and just ensure that there's safety going on around there at all times as well. So, like I said, nice and simple.
Does the item find a seconder? Councillor Kerrison? Hold on, we just got to...
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Doherty. Look, I'm more than happy to second that tonight. I think communication is key, and I've seen from my personal experience in my ward at times where there's communication from the administration has been excellent, you know, well done administration, but I've also seen a few holes and things where the gaps need to be filled a little bit better. So, you know, I'm not even sure weekly basis is that. It could be fortnightly, but sometimes it might be 2 or 3 times in a week, depending what's happening. But the concept of weekly basis I certainly support, and yes, communication is key.
Are there any councillors wishing to speak to the motion? Councillor Smith-Jane.
Thank you, Mayor Doherty. I just have a question. Is this realistic from the council staff to provide weekly basis updates to all sporting clubs at Agana Park?
Ms Vincent?
Thanks for the question, through the chair. It's certainly easy enough to do. I guess my feedback will possibly be that we, from a delivery point of view, we typically have contract meetings fortnightly, at which we're provided a 2-week look ahead. So I guess from a practicality point of view, that timing would work better for us. We also obviously do liaise with the clubs all the time on an as-need basis. So if something was to change, we wouldn't wait for the next week or whatever that would be to liaise with them.
All right. Look, thank you. The only reason I stipulated weekly is because most clubs, and I'm happy for it to also say associations, so that you're not contacting 30 netball clubs.
So, Councillor Norris, do you wish to change that to fortnightly? Is that what you're going to allude to?
If that's the frequency of the updates, then I think it's relevant.
With leave of the meeting, and Councillor Kerrison, I'm getting a nod from Councillor Kerrison. Does anyone disagree with that? I think that's a sensible change based on the feedback we just received. So we changed the word weekly to fortnightly with leave of the meeting. Is anyone against? If someone's against, we have to go for an amendment, but based on the practicality we just heard from the staff, that probably does make sense. So I'll take that with leave with the consent of the mover and the seconder. We change that from weekly to fortnightly. So we'll continue on with the debate if there's anyone wishing to further debate. Councillor Norris, you have the right to close if you wish.
That's fine, thank you.
We have no further discussion, councillors, so I'll put those in favour. Those against, I declare that carried. Are there any other motions without notice? We move to item 14, committee reports. Then we'll move to item 15, staff reports, corporate governance committee charter on page 14. Does somebody wish to move that way? Councillor Halls.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the item find a second? Councillor.
Yeah, happy to second.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? I'm presuming the mover and seconder don't wish to speak. Then I will put that. Those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. Move to item 15.2, State Bicycle Fund 24-25 for Adams Road, Blair Park Drive and Midway Road and attachments. Councillor Marsh.
Yeah, happy to support it and don't need to speak to that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. That finds a seconder. Councillor Rentoulis.
Happy to second the staff recommendation. No need to speak.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Norris.
Thank you. I just had a question in relation to, because obviously this is made up of a fair amount of grants. Is it not holistically, but is the whole thing made up of grants, or what is the proportion of it that comes from council contributions? Just so I've got a complete understanding.
Ms Mitson.
Thank you for the question, through the chair. So the grant funding we've received is $500,000, 200, 200 and 100 across those three programs. And in the recommendation, the rest of it is council funding. So council funding 250 increasing to 350 and council funding 822 increasing by the 400 to the 1222.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Norris? Okay, thank you. No other question. No other speaking from you. Then Councillor Halls.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I just ask, do we really need to widen the footpaths? Can we not have the roads as shared roads with bicycles? I've seen it done in other councils and they have a push bike on the road and, yeah, wouldn't that be cheaper, you know, cut some of our costing?
Ms Mitson.
Thank you for the question, through the chair. City of Playford has a combination of those treatments. So from a best practice perspective, separating bicycles away from road traffic is obviously the highest standard and best practice, which we're able to do in these locations. If we can't do that, or if that's not affordable, a better but not perfect solution is on-road cycle lanes marking. In these instances, we have existing footpaths in 2 of the 3 cases, which are able to widen to shared use path width, which also benefits pedestrians as well as cyclists. But being able to do that with this kind of path is what triggers us being successful for the grant funding. It has to be wide enough to be bicycle infrastructure.
Thank you.
Any other councillors wishing to speak? If not, Councillor Marsh has the right to close. No. If there's no other discussion, then I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. Move to item 15.3, Budget Update Report. Councillor Smallwood-Smith.
I'd like to move the staff recommendation, please. I don't wish to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Smallwood-Smith. I presume it finds a seconder in Councillor Strowatt.
I'll second that. Don't wish to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strowatt. Does any other councillor wish to speak? If not, then I will put that. Those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. Move to item 15.4, mid-year review, end-of-year forecast. Somebody wish to move the item? Councillor Smallwood-Smith.
Move the staff recommendation. No wish to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Smallwood-Smith. I'm resuming Councillor Halls. You wishing to second?
Yes, thank you.
Do you wish to speak? No. Any other councillor wishing to speak? If not, then I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. We go to informal discussion, which is nil. Then we go to confidential matters, item number 17, 17.1 Park Road Drain on page 72. And pursuant to section 92 of the Local Government Act 1999, an order is made that the public be excluded from the attendance at the meeting with the exception of the following, and the staff are listed on the screen, pursuant to section 93K of the Local Government Act. Somebody wish to move that way? Councillor Smallwood-Smith.
Move the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Smallwood-Smith. I presume you don't wish to speak to that. Does that find a seconder? Seconder from Councillor Halls. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Halls? No? So we've got it moved and seconded. Does anyone wish to speak to that motion? If no one does, then I'll put that. Those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. Ask that the gallery be vacated except for those staff members that are allowed to be present as per the motion, and that the doors be closed. So I ask...
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au, and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manapara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day. There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults. Plus, the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manopara.
Okay, councillors, we're now back on the live stream. There's no other confidential items. We're back in the open meeting. We now go to item 18, which is closure, and I'll close the meeting at 7 minutes past 10, and thank you for all your attendance.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au, and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manapara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day